Hey guys, tonight we're going to step into a world that's loud, brutal and terrifying in ways most of us will never fully grasp. A time of war, fear, and machines that pushed human endurance to its edge. This isn't the glamorous story of flying through the clouds with the sun on your helmet. This is about what it really felt like to be a jet pilot during the Vietnam War, where the cockpit wasn't a place of freedom, but a boiling metal cage balanced between survival and death. Before we begin, take a second to get comfortable. Dim the lights, settle into bed, and let the quiet around you be a shield from the noise we're about to step into. If you like the kind of journeys I share, you know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe if you feel like sticking around, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from tonight. It's always fascinating to see who's out there, scattered across the world, tuning into the same story. Now imagine this, it's the late 1960s. You're not at home, you're not on your couch, and you're not safe. You're waking up in Southeast Asia, thousands of miles from the place you grew up, in a war that's dragging on without end. The air is already thick with heat, the kind that clings to your skin before the sun has even cleared the horizon. The smell of jet fuel is everywhere, seeping into your clothes, your hair, even your sheets, if you can call them sheets. They're thin, rough, and damp, stretched across a bed inside a barracks or a canvas tent that never quite keeps the insects out. You blink yourself awake, but you never really slept. Not deeply. Because every night here comes with the sound of distant artillery, the rumble of generators, and the occasional scramble alarm that jolts you upright. The fear is constant, and your body never truly shuts down. You live half awake, half braced, waiting for the next mission, the next briefing, the next time you're told to climb back into the sky, and hope you make it down again. There's no luxury in your morning, no steaming mug of coffee brewed in a clean kitchen. You drink whatever powdered mix is available, lukewarm water stirred with instant granules, bitter and chalky, but strong enough to jolt your system. Breakfast, if you have time for it, is powdered eggs, canned meat, or toast from bread that tastes faintly of mildew, because humidity owns everything here. Nothing is fresh, nothing is comforting. It's fuel, like the jet fuel outside, just enough to keep the machine running. And the machine isn't just the aircraft waiting for you on the flight line. It's you. Your body, your nerves, your brain, they're all parts of the same system that has to function under impossible stress. You can't afford to break. You can't afford to slow down. And the war doesn't care if you're exhausted, if you miss home, if you're sick, or if you're quietly falling apart inside. The war expects you to suit up, strap in, and launch into a sky filled with enemies you can't even see until they're already trying to kill you. So tonight, that's where we're going. Into the life of a Vietnam War jet pilot. Into the missions, the sweat, the noise, the fear, and the tiny victories that kept people going day after day. It's not the story of heroes in the clouds. It's the story of survival in a cockpit that was as much a prison as it was a weapon. Take a breath, settle in, and let's step onto the tarmac together. You open your eyes to the dim light of Southeast Asia in the late 1960s, and the first thing you notice isn't the sky or the rising sun, but the smell. Jet fuel, damp canvas, and sweat all tangled together in a haze that sticks in your throat. Yet the air is heavy before the day has even started. It presses down on you, thick and wet, like someone draped a hot towel over your whole body. Sleep never comes easy here. And when it does, it's shallow and restless, broken up by the whine of generators, the buzzing of insects, or the occasional thud of artillery far in the distance. You might have slept 4 hours, maybe 5 if you were lucky, but your body doesn't feel rested. It feels worn, stiff, and alert in ways it never used to before this war. Your bed is barely a bed, just a cot with thin sheets, the edges curled from constant humidity, the fabric permanently damp no matter how long they've been hung out to dry. The pillow, if you even bother with one, is lumpy, uneven, and smells faintly of mildew. You never escape the damp here. It seeps into everything. Your boots, your flight suit, even the pages of the letters you keep folded in your duffel bag. The air itself is alive with it. You can almost taste the rot of the jungle outside mixing with the kerosene and the sweat that lingers on every surface. Around you, the barracks are stirring. Maybe you're in a wooden hut with corrugated tin nailed over the top. Or maybe just a tent stretched across poles that creak whenever the wind picks up. Privacy doesn't exist. You sleep shoulder to shoulder with other pilots, officers, mechanics, anyone the base needs crammed into whatever shelter they can throw together. Snoring, coughing, restless turning. It never stops. One guy talks in his sleep about home. Another grinds his teeth loud enough that you can hear it over the drone of the ceiling fan that's supposed to help with the heat, but mostly just stirs it around. Every sound reminds you that you're not alone, but at the same time, you've never felt further from anyone. You shift and try to stretch, but the cot groans under your weight. The metal frame bends and squeals as if even it resents being here. Your back pops like an old hinge, the product of too many nights on a surface that was never meant for real rest. Your legs ache before you've even stood up, tight from sitting in cramped cockpits, running across tarmacs and hauling gear day after day. You rub your eyes, but the grit doesn't go away. It's not just sleep in your eyes. It's dust, jet exhaust, and sweat baked in from the last mission, ground in so deep it feels permanent. You glance at your watch. Time barely matters here. Days blur together in heat and noise, punctuated only by missions and briefings. But schedules are everything. Someone's already banging on a metal pipe outside, the signal that it's time to get moving. That hollow clang echoes across the compound, bouncing between tents, reminding everyone that this day isn't yours. None of them are. Every day belongs to the war, and it will decide when you eat, when you fly, when you might die. You sit up, and the mosquito netting clings to your arm. Holes have already formed in it, small tears that bugs slip through easily. You slap one away, leaving a smear of blood. Yours, someone else's, who knows? They've been feeding on all of you since you landed here. The buzzing is constant, like static, and you've long since given up swatting them all. The best you can do is smear on repellent that smells like chemicals and hope it doesn't sweat off before breakfast. Malaria pills sit in a tin on the table, chalky and bitter, leaving a metallic taste in your mouth hours after you've swallowed them. You take them anyway. Everyone does. Not because they work perfectly, but because not taking them is worse. You stand, and your feet find the floor. A thin layer of dust mixed with mud tracked in from the last rain. The ground never really dries. The jungle breathes moisture into everything, and you walk through it barefoot until you slide your boots on. The leather is cracked, stiff, and always damp on the inside no matter how long you leave them out. You shove your feet in anyway, lace them up, and feel the familiar pinch, Comfort is a memory. Function is all that matters. Outside the tent, the sky is still grey, the sun just beginning to push through. The air is thick with haze, a mix of morning mist and the lingering smoke from last night's airstrikes. You breathe it in, and it tastes of oil, burnt earth, and something metallic you can never quite place. The base is already alive. Men shout across the tarmac. Trucks rumble past hauling fuel or ammunition, and in the distance an engine coughs to life before roaring into a deafening scream. That sound is constant here, jet engines tearing open the air, rattling your bones, vibrating the very ground you stand on. You live in that noise, day after day, until silence itself feels wrong. Breakfast is waiting, but it isn't something you look forward to. You shuffle into the mess tent, where the air is thicker, somehow, from bodies crammed together, sweat dripping into uniforms, and the heat of stoves pumping out lukewarm meals. Powdered eggs, canned meat, maybe toast if you're lucky. The bread is stale before it even hits your tray. Coffee comes in metal dispensers, steaming in the humidity, but always tasting faintly of mud, burnt and bitter, with a chemical aftertaste that clings to your tongue. You drink it anyway, cup after cup, because caffeine is the only thing keeping you from collapsing. No one talks much. Conversations are short, clipped, filled with nervous energy. You all know where you're going today, even if you don't say it out loud. Around you, faces are drawn, eyes sunken from too many nights just like this. Some men eat in silence, staring at their trays as though they might find home at the bottom of a tin plate. Others joke, forced laughter cutting too sharp, hiding the fear that never really leaves. You recognise it in yourself, that constant edge in your voice, that tension in your chest that never relaxes no matter how many missions you've flown. The war eats it out of you slowly. Not in big moments, not always in combat, but in mornings like this, when you realise you're about to strap yourself into another machine and gamble everything again. You finish quickly, because time doesn't stretch here. You don't get lazy mornings, you get schedules, briefings and orders. Plates clatter, boots shuffle, chairs scrape against wooden floors, and soon the tent empties. Outside, the light is brighter now, the sun burning through the mist, revealing the outlines of phantoms and skyhawks lined up on the tarmac like predators waiting to be unleashed. They shimmer in the heat, their canopies fogged, their fuselages streaked with grime and soot. Ground crews swarm around them, checking fuel lines, loading bombs, strapping missiles onto wings. The war is already moving, whether you're ready or not. Your body is awake now, but not fully. It moves on autopilot, sliding from cot to boots to mess hall to flight line, because routine is the only thing that keeps you sane. If you think too much, you freeze. If you hesitate, you fall behind. So you move, step by step, toward another day that promises nothing but exhaustion and danger. The tent you woke up in is just a starting point, a place that smells of mildew and sweat, but it's also the only thing resembling home. Thin canvas walls, rusting cots, buzzing insects. It's not much, but it's where you'll return tonight, if you return at all. And as you walk across the compound, the engines growing louder, the heat rising, and the taste of burnt coffee still coating your tongue, you know this day isn't any different from the last. The only question is whether you'll live through it long enough to wake up here again tomorrow. You step out from the dim tent into the bright wash of daylight, and the smell hits you harder than the humidity. Jet fuel. It's everywhere. It clings to the air like a permanent fog, thick and acrid, working its way into your nostrils and coating your tongue with a bitter film you can't wash away. It doesn't just stay on the runway or the mechanics' uniforms. It crawls into every corner of the base, weaving through the canvas walls of your tent, sinking into your skin, embedding itself into your hair until no amount of scrubbing can get rid of it. Even when you close your eyes at night, exhausted and too tired to move, it lingers in your dreams. The smell of JP4 is as much a part of your body as your own blood. The ground shakes with the cough of turbines spinning up. Somewhere nearby, a phantom is being readied, its engines warming, coughing like a smoker before erupting into a deafening roar. You don't see it yet, but you feel it through the soles of your boots and in the pit of your chest. The sound rolls across the compound like thunder, rattling tin walls and shaking dust down from rafters. No one looks up anymore. No one flinches. The noise is constant, so regular that silence has become alien. When you were a kid back home, the sound of cicadas or crickets marked a summer night. Here, the soundtrack is fuel pumps, turbine whines, and the thunderclap of afterburners tearing open the sky. The mess hall isn't far, but you're reminded with every step that this base isn't designed for comfort. It's built for utility, for speed, for keeping machines flying more than keeping people alive. Dust kicks up beneath your boots, mixing with the stench of fuel. The mud from yesterday's rain has dried in patches, cracking in the heat, but it's still soft enough to cling. Trucks roll by with stacks of bombs chained down on flatbeds, and each one leaves another choking trail of exhaust. Fuel trucks move slowly in and out of the line of aircraft, hoses already unwinding like veins feeding into the machines. It's a choreography you've seen 100 times, always the same, always relentless. Inside the mess hall, the air isn't any better. If anything, it's worse. The faint whiff of powdered eggs and burnt toast is overwhelmed by the unmistakable tang of fuel drifting in through open flaps. Ventilation is nothing more than a few ceiling fans spinning sluggishly, stirring hot air but never cooling it. Your tray clatters as you slide it down the line. Powdered eggs drop in a yellow heap. A strip of bacon curls beside them, stiff with grease that shines under the dim bulbs. A square of toast, charred on one side, lands next to a pat of butter that melts before you even pick up your plate. You pour yourself coffee from a dented urn. The smell should be comforting, but even the coffee here tastes like fuel. Bitter, metallic, tinged with the same chemical tang that's in the air. Some guys say they can't even tell the difference anymore. Coffee, fuel, sweat, it's all one flavour now. You drink it anyway because you have to. The caffeine hits quick, sharp enough to cut through the fog of sleeplessness. Your body moves on habit, not desire. You've learned not to think about how it tastes, not to wonder what it would be like to wake up back home to the smell of bacon that wasn't cooked in a kitchen rattling from engine noise. You eat what you're given, swallow hard, and wash it down with another gulp of coffee that tastes like a burnt rag soaked in kerosene. Around you, the other pilots are doing the same. Some shovel food in quickly, barely looking down. Others poke at their plates, appetite already lost before the first bite. A few make weak jokes, laughter cutting short and brittle. You can see it in their eyes, the same thing you feel in your chest. The smell of fuel isn't just physical, it's psychological. It's a reminder that breakfast isn't really breakfast. It's preparation. It's the prelude to another mission. Another stretch of hours strapped into a cockpit, with sweat soaking through your suit and the roar of engines crushing your thoughts. One pilot beside you taps the table with the edge of his fork, over and over, a rhythm that betrays the nerves he doesn't say out loud. Another stares past you, eyes fixed on some invisible point, chewing without tasting. You've done it too, losing yourself in the noise, in the haze, in the weight of the smell that won't leave. It makes the food taste the same every day, like cardboard dipped in chemicals. And even when you swallow the last bite, you don't feel full. You just feel heavy, waiting for the next order. The mess hall is hot. The air is stagnant, thick with fuel, sweat and grease. Uniforms cling to bodies, damp with humidity. Metal trays clatter, boots scrape against wooden floors. Fans whir without relief. Outside, the engines rise again, a fresh wave of sound rolling over the base. You can tell just from the pitch which aircraft are being readied, which are taking off, which are still waiting. The sound has become second nature, as recognisable as voices. You take another gulp of coffee, even though it does nothing to quench the dryness in your mouth. You think about the water back home, cold, clean, crisp out of a tap. But here, water tastes of iodine tablets or tin canteens left in the sun too long. Everything tastes wrong. Everything smells of fuel. Even letters from home carry the faintest trace of it, because when you open them in this mess hall or this tent, the odour seeps into the paper. You tuck them away in your duffel bag, but the smell follows. You wonder if the people who wrote them would even recognise them now, tainted and discoloured, edges curled from the damp air. Someone makes a comment about the day's sortie, just loud enough to cut through the clatter. It's never casual. The words are flat, heavy, because everyone knows what's coming. You catch fragments, coordinates, target names, the usual shorthand that becomes routine. The mess hall goes quieter. Utensils scrape less. No one wants to dwell on it over breakfast, but everyone does anyway. The smell of fuel is a constant reminder that the food in front of you is just a pause before the real business begins. You finish quickly, because lingering doesn't make anything better. The tray scrapes as you slide it onto a stack, plates clattering together in a sound that feels too sharp in the heavy air. You push back your chair and step outside again, and the heat swallows you whole. The smell intensifies immediately. Fuel so strong it burns at the back of your throat. The runway stretches out in front of you, lined with phantoms waiting like predators on leashes. Ground crews swarm around them, sweating through their fatigues, faces streaked with grease. Fuel lines snake across the tarmac, hoses glistening in the light, pumping lifeblood into the machines that will carry you through the sky today. You stand there for a moment, coffee still bitter on your tongue, fuel burning in your lungs, the sound of turbines growing sharper with every second. Breakfast is over, but it never really felt like breakfast. It felt like swallowing down nerves, washing them with bitter liquid, and stepping back into the stench of a base where nothing is ever clean, quiet, or safe. The smell of fuel is your real morning meal, and it will follow you into the briefing room, into the cockpit, into the very air you breathe until long after the mission ends. And as you start walking toward the briefing tent, boots crunching against the dust, the engines roaring louder with every step, you know the day has already begun to eat away at you. The fuel is in your lungs, in your stomach, in your bloodstream, and there's no escaping it. You can taste it every time you swallow. You can feel it clinging to your skin. It will be there long after the coffee is gone, long after the eggs are forgotten, long after you've taken off and disappeared into the haze above the jungle. You push through the heat and the noise, coffee still sour on your tongue, until you reach the squat building or tent where the day's plan is waiting for you. It's not glamorous. It's not even comfortable. A few wooden tables, some folding chairs, a chalkboard smudged with yesterday's notes, and maps covering every flat surface like layers of skin on the wall. You duck inside, and the air is thick, not with relief, but with bodies pressed together, sweat clinging to uniforms, and that same stench of fuel that seeps through canvas walls like it owns the place. The briefing room is already filling. Pilots shuffle in, some still buttoning their flight suits, some carrying folders tucked under their arms, all of them wearing the same half-dead expression that comes from too many mornings like this. The chatter is low, clipped, functional. No one wastes words because the words are always the same. You take a seat, the metal chair wobbling slightly under your weight, and pull out the papers that have been shoved at you. Orders, weather reports, intelligence updates. They're all stacked in uneven piles, typed in black ink that's already smudged from damp fingers. You look down at the maps spread across the table, and your stomach knots the way it always does. Thick red lines snake across jungles and rivers, circling targets with fat marker strokes. Arrows crisscross the paper, pointing toward places with names you can barely pronounce. Villages you've never seen. Stretches of green jungle that look the same as every other stretch of green jungle, but are marked with words like AA concentration or possible SAM sites. You stare at the acronyms, the shorthand scrawled in margins, and you feel the weight of it settle on your chest. Each of those notes is a reminder that someone out there is waiting to kill you. The officer leading the briefing doesn't bother with ceremony. He taps the chalkboard with a pointer, the sound sharp and hollow in the humid air. He goes through the target, the route, the expected resistance. His voice is steady, detached, like he's reading a grocery list. But you know what he's saying. You've flown enough sorties to translate it. Expected resistance means anti-aircraft fire so thick it looks like the sky itself is tearing apart. Possible SAM sites means long white trails of missiles screaming up from the jungle at speeds no human reflex should be expected to outpace. Target area heavily defended means the odds of someone not coming back are higher than anyone wants to admit. You take notes, your pen dragging across damp paper, the ink bleeding slightly in the humidity. You sketch the route, mark the coordinates, jot down the call signs. Your handwriting is rushed, uneven, but it doesn't matter. You won't be looking at it much once you're in the cockpit. Once you're strapped in, it will all be muscle memory, instinct, and survival. But you write it down anyway because routine is the only anchor you have. The officer flips through slides, grainy photos taken from reconnaissance flights, black and white images of jungle, rivers, mountains. Somewhere in the blur are supply routes, bridges, storage depots, sometimes just clusters of huts. He circles them with a pointer, taps the board again, and moves on. To him, they're marks on a map. To you, they're points you'll be diving toward at 500 knots, releasing ordnance that may or may not hit the exact spot intended, all while tracers and missiles claw at the sky around you. Around the room, you glance at the other pilots. Some lean forward, staring intently, jaws set. Others slouch back in their chairs, eyes half-lidded, trying to look detached. You know better. You've seen the way their hands shake slightly when they fold up their papers. You've heard the coughs they can't quite suppress when the nerves get too heavy. Everyone reacts differently, but no one is immune. Not after this many missions. Not with the map spread out in front of you, reminding you how small you are compared to the jungle that swallows everything. The briefing drags on, every detail layered on top of the last, until the weight of it presses into your skull. Weather patterns, wind directions, estimated flight times, refueling points, rescue procedures, words that should feel comforting in their precision but never do, because no matter how carefully they map it out, no plan survives the sky. You've been in enough cockpits to know that once the wheels leave the ground, the maps and the words and the paperwork become a background hum. The only thing that matters is the instant-to-instant survival, the decisions you make in seconds that can't be rehearsed on paper. Still, you sit there and listen. You nod at the right times. You trace your finger along the lines on the map, memorizing the bends of rivers, the outline of ridges, the markers for towns you'll fly over. You try to burn it into your mind, because when you're up there, with the cockpit shaking around you and the sky lit up with tracer fire, you won't have time to think about what line was drawn where. You'll have to know it without thinking. The officer shifts to escape routes. He doesn't linger on them, but you do. Your eyes follow the dotted lines leading out of the target zone, curving back toward friendly bases or out to the sea. He rattles off radio frequencies, calls signs for rescue choppers, codes to use if you're shot down. You write them down, but your hand is tight around the pen. Everyone pretends this is routine, that it's just another part of the briefing, but you know why he says it. Because someone won't come back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. And when it happens, the escape routes and the codes are the only lifeline between capture and survival. You've seen it before. You've heard the silence on the radio when someone ejects and doesn't answer again. The smell in the briefing room never goes away. Sweat, damp paper, stale coffee and fuel. Always fuel. You shift in your seat, feeling the fabric of your flight suit stick to your back. The air is unmoving, the fans above rattling more than spinning, pushing hot air in circles that only make the room heavier. You drink from a canteen, but the water is warm, tasting faintly of iodine. It doesn't help. It just sloshes in your stomach, reminding you how dry your mouth still feels. The officer wraps up, his voice flat as he repeats the essentials. Time of takeoff, flight order, target designation. He sets the papers down, wipes his forehead with the back of his hand, and steps away. Chairs scrape back. Papers shuffle. Boots thud against wooden floors. The room empties in a slow, steady wave, everyone tucking maps into folders, stuffing notes into pockets, folding escape codes into sleeves. You follow, moving with the group, not because you're eager, but because that's the rhythm. You've done it so many times now that your body knows the steps. Outside, the sun is higher, burning down against the tarmac. The heat bounces up in waves, shimmering, distorting the outlines of aircraft lined up like steel beasts waiting to be unleashed. The smell of fuel is sharper here, stronger, cutting through your nostrils until it feels like you're breathing liquid fire. The maps in your hand are already curling at the edges from the humidity. You fold them tighter, slip them into your vest, and look out at the machines that will carry you where the arrows on those maps are pointing. The paperwork is just paper. The briefing is just words. The maps are just lines. But you know what they really are. They're reminders. They're warnings. They're the thin layer of structure wrapped around the chaos that waits in the sky. You walk toward the flight line, boots grinding against the dust, engines rumbling louder with each step, and you feel the weight of the morning settle deeper into your chest. You've eaten the tasteless breakfast. You've choked down the smell of fuel. You've sat through the endless briefing and stared at the maps until the rivers and ridges blurred into one. Now all that's left is the machine waiting for you. And as the roar of turbines rises again, shaking the ground beneath your feet, you know that the day has only just begun pressing its weight onto you. You leave the briefing room with the heat pressing down on you like a physical weight, the smell of fuel sharper than ever as you cross back toward the tent that holds your gear. The chatter of the other pilots fades into the constant drone of engines spooling up, generators rumbling, and ground crews shouting over the noise. You know what comes next, and your body moves on instinct, step after step, toward the routine you've performed more times than you can count. The tent is dim, hot, and cramped. A row of lockers lines one side, dented metal doors painted with fading numbers. Some of the locks hang open, others clatter shut with a metallic snap as hands tug at helmets, gloves, and vests. The air inside smells like sweat that never quite dries, mildew creeping in from the canvas walls, and the faint tang of grease that clings to everything on base. You duck your head and pull open your own locker, the hinges squealing like they resent being used again. Inside hangs your flight suit, olive drab, stained darker in patches, the fabric stiff in places where sweat has dried and never fully washed out. You run your hand down the sleeve, and the material feels rough, scratchy against your palm. It's supposed to be flame resistant, a thin barrier between you and the fire that waits out there in the sky. But to you, it just feels like another layer of damp cloth that never breathes, never cools, and never smells clean. You've worn it on every mission, and no matter how many times it's been scrubbed in buckets or hosed off with soap that barely cuts grease, the odour never leaves. The sweat and fear soak into the fibres until they're part of it. You step out of your boots and strip down to the undershirt that clings to your skin. It's already damp, not from effort, but from the humidity that saturates everything before the day has even begun. Pulling on the flight suit is work in itself. The fabric resists, heavy and unwieldy, sticking to your damp skin as you tug one leg in, then the other. The zipper is stubborn, teeth catching, but you drag it up anyway, sealing yourself into the suit like a second skin that doesn't fit right. You shift, roll your shoulders, and feel the fabric pull tight across your back, stiff in all the wrong places. Comfort isn't part of the design. Around you, other pilots are going through the same ritual. Some mutter curses as they wrestle with their own suits. Others sit silently, tugging boots back on, lacing them up with sharp tugs. A few joke half-heartedly, but the words land flat in the thick air. No one's really laughing. You catch a glimpse of one pilot scrubbing at a dark stain on his sleeve with a rag, as if it might come out this time. It doesn't. It never does. The fabric holds on to every memory, every spill of fuel, every streak of sweat, every mark of fear. You cinch the straps around your wrists, tug the collar up, and adjust the pockets that bulge with maps folded too many times, checklists, and the small battered notebook you keep, even though you rarely look at it mid-flight. The weight settles on you immediately, dragging at your shoulders, clinging to your legs. The heat builds under the layers until your skin is slick again, sweat gathering at the small of your back and the crooks of your arms. You haven't even stepped outside yet, and you already feel like you've been working for hours. Next comes the gear. The survival vest hangs heavy on a hook, straps twisted from constant use. You slip it on, the weight dragging against your shoulders. Pockets bulge with essentials. A knife, a flare, a radio, medical supplies. Tools you pray you'll never need, because needing them means you've punched out into the jungle, alone and hunted. You buckle the straps, cinch them tight, and feel the vest press against your ribs. Another layer added to the cage you'll sit in soon. The helmet waits last. White, scuffed, marked with scratches from missions before. The visor is smudged, always smudged, no matter how many times you wipe it clean. You set it on the bench beside you, the sight of it heavier than the weight itself. That helmet means the next step is the cockpit. The moment it goes on, you're no longer in the tent, no longer surrounded by men tugging on their suits. You're strapped into the machine, sealed away from everything but the noise and the sky. You let it sit there for now, buying yourself a few more minutes before the transition. You bend to pull on your boots again, tugging the laces tight until your fingers ache. The leather is stiff, the soles caked with dust from the last walk across the flight line. No matter how many times you scrape them clean, the dirt always finds its way back. You stand, the layers of gear tugging at your body, the straps biting into your shoulders. You roll your neck, trying to ease the tension that builds every morning. It doesn't help. The weight isn't just physical. It's the knowledge of what comes next. The tent is noisy now, pilots moving, lockers slamming shut, gear shifting, boots stamping. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, mildew, and the faint sweetness of jet fuel carried in from outside. You step back, helmet in hand, and push through the flap into the light. The heat slams into you again, heavier now with all the layers trapping it against your skin. Your undershirt is already soaked, sticking uncomfortably to your chest. The flight suit clings to your thighs, your back, your arms. You shift, trying to find a position where the fabric doesn't pull or rub, but there isn't one. You know that by the end of the mission, the suit will be soaked through, the smell of your own sweat baked into it, the stains darker than before. You walk toward the line of aircraft, helmet heavy at your side, vest dragging on your shoulders, boots crunching against the tarmac. Each step feels deliberate, the weight pulling you down, the heat pressing from above. Around you, ground crews move with purpose, waving signals, dragging hoses, tightening bolts. The engines are louder now, turbines spinning, afterburners roaring as one plane after another prepares to leap skyward. You taste the fuel in the back of your throat, stronger now, mixed with the sweat dripping from your upper lip. You glance down at the suit again, the fabric already darkening in places where the sweat is soaked through. It doesn't matter. It never does. You'll wear the same suit tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. It will never be clean. It will always smell of sweat, fear, and fuel. It's as much a part of the war as the aircraft itself. A uniform that doesn't just clothe you, but remind you with every tug and pull of what you're walking toward. And as you step closer to the jet waiting for you, the roar of its engines vibrating through your chest, you know that the suit clinging to your skin isn't protection, not really. It's just another reminder that your body is part of the machine now, wrapped in layers of fabric, straps and weight, all of it soaked in sweat and never clean. You've got the flight suit clinging to your body, the vest dragging on your shoulders, the helmet heavy in your hand, but you're not finished yet. The real preparation has only just begun, because before you even touch the cockpit, you have to strap on the rest of the gear that's supposed to keep you alive, or at least give you a fighting chance if the worst happens. It's a ritual, repeated every day until it feels like second nature, but it never gets comfortable. The survival gear waits on a wooden bench near the line, laid out in pieces that don't look like much until you start putting them on. Each strap, each buckle, each cord adds another layer between you and the outside world. You sit down heavily, the fabric of your suit sticking to the bench, and pull the harness across your chest. It's thick, webbed nylon, stiff from constant use and crusted with sweat stains that no amount of washing will ever erase. The buckles clink as you adjust them, the metal biting cold against your fingers despite the heat. You slip your arms through, tug it down over your shoulders, and pull it tight until the straps cut against your collarbone. It feels less like clothing and more like being bound into place. You clip on the parachute harness next. The weight drags against your hips, the straps digging into the flesh of your thighs as you tighten them. It's supposed to be your lifeline if you're forced to eject, the one thing between you and the ground if the jet becomes nothing but fire and shrapnel. You know the stories. Pilots saved by the harness, drifting down into the jungle with nothing but a flare and a prayer. Pilots who didn't get out in time, whose chutes tangled or tore, whose gear failed when they needed it most. You tug the straps tighter, because superstition demands it, because routine demands it, because doing it wrong means never coming home. Then comes the G-suit. You slide your legs into the heavy fabric, zippers and hoses clinking as you pull it up. The suit grips your thighs, your calves, your waist, snug and unyielding. Tubes snake from it, designed to inflate under pressure, squeezing your legs and abdomen when the G-forces hit so your blood doesn't drain from your head. Without it, you'd black out in seconds. With it, you still might. It's uncomfortable, restrictive, and hot. Sweat pools beneath it almost immediately, running down your skin, itching in places you can't scratch. But you endure it, because flying without it isn't an option. You fasten the survival knife to your leg. The sheath is worn, the blade scratched and dulled from constant checks, but it's sharp enough for what it's meant for. Cutting straps, hacking through brush, defending yourself if the jungle swallows you whole. You've run your thumb along the edge so many times that you know every nick in the steel. It's both a tool and a reminder. If you ever need it, things have gone very, very wrong. The pistol comes next, heavy in its holster. You strap it to your side, the weight familiar, but never reassuring. It's meant to protect you if you're shot down, to hold out until rescue comes. But you know the truth. A sidearm isn't much against an entire jungle or an enemy patrol hunting you down. Still, you clip it into place, the snap of the holster loud in the heavy air, another sound added to the endless rhythm of preparation. You clip on the radio, adjust the cord, check the batteries with a practiced twist. The antenna juts awkwardly, always in the way, but necessary. Without it, you're just another body falling through the trees, silent and lost. With it, you at least have a chance to call for help, to speak into the static and hope someone hears you before the enemy does. You test the switch, the faint crackle filling your ear, and then you tuck it back into the pocket of the vest. The oxygen mask hangs from your helmet, dangling like an extra limb you'll soon need to breathe through once you're sealed into the cockpit. You pick up the helmet, the weight solid in your hands, and slide it over your head. The padding presses against your skull, tight and unrelenting, muffling the outside noise until all you hear is your own breath. You snap the chin strap, tug the visor down, and lock it into place. The world outside dims, filtered through the tinted shield. You adjust the mask against your face, the rubber seal clinging to your skin, the straps biting at the back of your head. Breathing through it is strange, forced, mechanical, like every inhale and exhale is borrowed. You tug it loose again, letting it hang for now, but the imprint is already there on your cheeks. You run through the checklist in your head. Harness, parachute, G-suit, knife, pistol, radio, helmet. Every piece strapped down, tightened, checked again. Each one digs into you, pulls at you, weighs you down. The gear is supposed to keep you alive, but it feels like a prison of straps and buckles, binding you tighter with every adjustment. You stand, the full weight of it settling on you, and shift your shoulders to bear it. The sweat is pouring now, dripping down your temples, pooling at the base of your spine. Your undershirt is soaked through, plastered against your skin beneath the suit. Around you, the other pilots are finishing their own rituals. Buckles snap, straps tighten, helmets click into place. The noise is constant. Metal on metal, fabric pulling tight, the grunt of men bending and twisting to get everything locked in. Some mutter under their breath, little prayers, curses, reminders. Everyone checks and rechecks, because mistakes aren't forgiven out there. A loose strap, a forgotten buckle, a broken cord. Any one of them could mean death when you're climbing through the sky at supersonic speed. You glance at your hands, already slick with sweat, the knuckles white from gripping straps too tight. They shake just slightly, the tremor small enough that no one else notices. You flex your fingers, wipe them on your thigh, and keep moving. There's no time to dwell on nerves. The ritual itself keeps you from thinking too much. One step, then the next. Buckle, strap, check. Buckle, strap, check. Until your body is covered in layers of fabric and nylon and steel. Until you're no longer just yourself, but something heavier. Something encased. The sun is high now, burning through the haze, glaring off the canopies of the waiting jets. The roar of engines fills the air, constant and deafening. You adjust the helmet one last time, tightening the chin strap, and feel the mask brush your cheek again. The gear is heavy, uncomfortable, suffocating, but you wear it anyway because without it, the sky is certain death. You take a deep breath, the air hot and thick even through the mask, and step toward the machine that's waiting for you. Each step feels heavier, each strap pulling tighter, the weight of survival pressing down from every direction. The ritual is done. You're strapped in, bound, sealed in gear that's never clean, never comfortable, but always necessary. And the jet is waiting, engines rumbling, heat shimmering off the tarmac, ready to take you into the sky, whether you're ready or not. The gear is strapped to your body, every buckle digging into your skin, every layer holding heat against you, like you're already locked in a furnace. The noise outside swallows thought. A roar of turbines and generators and shouted orders that rolls across the tarmac like waves. You step out into the full blast of the sun, and there it is waiting for you. The F4 Phantom. It doesn't look sleek the way recruiting posters made it look. Not up close. Not when you're standing on the heat-rippling concrete with sweat pouring down your back and your gear dragging at your shoulders. The Phantom is massive, hulking, a brute of an aircraft that squats on its landing gear like a predator too heavy for its own legs. Paint is blistered in places from constant exposure. The grey and green camouflage streaked with soot from exhaust and smudged from hands that have worked over it 1,000 times. Panels are scratched, rivets dulled, edges scarred from maintenance. That's been done quickly, always quickly, because there's no time for pristine when the war demands the jets keep flying. You walk closer, and the heat radiating off the fuselage feels like a wall. The engines aren't even spooled fully yet, but the metal radiates stored warmth from yesterday's flights, from every afterburner run that scorched the air around it. The smell is overwhelming here. Jet fuel, sharp enough to sting your sinuses. Scorched oil hanging in the air. Rubber from tyres that skid and grind against this runway day after day. It's all so thick you can taste it when you swallow. Bitter and metallic, coating the back of your throat. Ground crew swarm around the aircraft like ants, each one focused on a specific task. One drags a hose away, another checks the arming wires dangling from a missile strapped to the wing. Bombs hang heavy beneath the fuselage, fat cylinders painted dull green, their weight bending the landing gear into a slight crouch. A man crouches near the nose gear, wrench in hand, his coveralls soaked through with sweat and streaked with grime. Another waves a signal toward the cockpit ladder, ready for you to climb. They barely look at you, not because they don't care, but because this is routine. They've seen 100 pilots march up to these jets, suited up, heavy with gear, eyes narrowed against the sun. Some come back, some don't. The work continues either way. You stop at the nose and look up. The Phantom looms above you. 2 seats crammed into a cockpit that looks too small for the rest of the bulk. The nose stretches forward, pointed and dark, hiding radar and wiring and the kind of delicate machinery that decides whether or not you'll survive the mission. The wings jut out like slabs, stubby and broad, bristling with missiles and pylons. The twin tails rise high above, framing the twin exhausts that belch smoke even at idle. From the front, it looks angry, like it's scowling down at you. From the side, it looks unnatural, a machine built to punch through the air by brute force, not by elegance. You've flown it before, of course, many times. You know its quirks, its weight, its stubbornness. You know how it rattles when you push it into a climb. How the engines roar like they're tearing themselves apart when you kick in the burners. How the wings feel just a little too small for the body they're carrying. You know how it stalls in a hard turn. How it guzzles fuel faster than you can watch the gauges drop. How it can be both your weapon and your coffin depending on the second you're in. The crew chief waves you forward. You grip the ladder, metal scorching under the sun, and climb up toward the cockpit. Each step clanks against the rungs, your boots heavy, your gear dragging at your shoulders. At the top, you pause for a second, helmet tucked under your arm, and look down into the seat. The cockpit isn't spacious, it's cramped, a nest of straps and dials and levers that will swallow you whole once you sit down. Black panels covered in gauges line the walls. Switches poke out at odd angles. Labels faded from sun and use. Wires snake across the floor. Some neatly clipped. Others taped down with whatever was handy. The seat itself is hard, padded only enough to keep you from bruising, but you know how unforgiving it becomes after hours in the air. You lower yourself in, the harness straps tangling against your legs as you slide down into the seat. The smell inside is stronger than outside. Fuel, oil, and something like burnt rubber mixed with sweat, soaked into every crevice. You settle in, shifting your shoulders against the tight confines, and set your helmet down for a moment on the dash. The ground crew move around you quickly, checking connections, tugging on straps, running through motions they have repeated 1,000 times. One leans in, his face streaked with grease, and helps guide the harness into place, tugging the straps across your chest, clipping them into the seat's lock. The metal clicks shut with a finality that always makes your stomach clench. You're bound now, strapped down tight, no easy way out unless you pull the handle that blows the canopy and rockets you out of the jet. You adjust the oxygen mask, clipping it to the hose that snakes across the panel. The connection hisses, the sound sharp in the confined space. You tug it loose again, letting it hang for the moment, because breathing through it on the ground feels like suffocation. You reach down, check the pistol strapped to your thigh, the knife in its sheath, the radio tucked into the vest pocket. Everything is where it should be, but you check again anyway, because once the canopy comes down, there's no second chance. The back seat is occupied too. Your weapons systems officer, another body crammed into the space behind you. You exchange a glance, a nod, not much more. Words aren't needed. You both know what's coming, but what's expected, what's at risk. The intercom crackles faintly as he tests it, his voice tinny through the headset. You test your own mic, and the sound strange in your ears, disconnected from the world outside. You run your hands over the controls. The stick feels familiar, worn smooth where countless hands have gripped it. The throttle slides under your palm, stiff at first, then moving with heavy resistance. You flip switches, check gauges, confirm fuel levels, arm system still dormant but waiting. Each motion is muscle memory now, repeated so often it feels automatic. But you still force yourself to focus, to check each one, because forgetting something isn't an option. The canopy lowers with a mechanical whine. The outside world shrinks as the clear shield comes down, the noise muffling, the light dimming. You're sealed in now, the cockpit heating quickly, the sun baking the glass until it feels like you're sitting in a greenhouse made of metal and fire. Sweat beads on your forehead, rolls down your temples, soaks into the collar of your suit. You adjust the vents, but they do little. Air trickles in weakly, never enough to fight the furnace building around you. Outside, the ground crew finish their work. One slaps the side of the fuselage, a signal you've seen 100 times, then scrambles down the ladder. Another pulls the blocks from the wheels. They move clear, standing in the heat haze, waving signals with practiced precision. You give a thumbs up, a ritual as old as flight, and their gestures answer. The engines spool higher, the whine rising into a scream that vibrates the entire frame. The seat shudders beneath you. The stick trembles in your hand. The gauges flicker as power surges through the systems. The Phantom is alive now, more alive than you, more alive than anything around you. It roars and shakes, the sound pressing into your chest, the heat radiating until the cockpit feels like it's about to ignite. You grip the stick tighter, eyes flicking across the gauges, brain ticking through the checklist one last time. Fuel, hydraulics, weapons, comms. Everything reads green, everything humming, everything straining to be unleashed. You don't have to remind yourself what this machine is. You feel it in every vibration, every shudder, every scream of the engines. It's not sleek. It's not graceful. It's raw power bound into a steel cage, a weapon first and a craft second. And once you're strapped into it, there's no separation between the machine and yourself. It's your body now, your weapon, your coffin if it comes to that. The ground crew waves you forward. You release the brakes, the jet lurches, and the wheels roll against the tarmac. The Phantom moves heavy, lumbering at first, but the engines push with force that no human muscle could match. The runway stretches ahead, shimmering in the heat, and the roar grows louder as you taxi into place. You're strapped in, sealed in, part of the machine now. And as you grip the throttle, sweat stinging your eyes, you know that in a moment the Phantom will leap forward, dragging you with it into the sky, where the maps and arrows are waiting. The Phantom shudders as the engines spool higher, the whine rising into a scream that seems to tear at the air itself. You've felt this before, so many times that your body knows it before your brain catches up. The vibration starts in the seat, rattling through your spine, then spreads out into your chest until it feels like your ribcage itself is humming. The sound isn't just loud, it's physical. It presses into you, fills your skull, shakes your organs. You don't just hear a Phantom engine at full power, you survive it. The canopy is down, but the noise seeps through every inch of it, muffled only enough to keep you from going deaf instantly. Even with the helmet tight on your head and the oxygen mask clamped over your mouth, the roar is overwhelming. It pushes through the padding, through the rubber, into your ears until your eardrums ache with each rise in pitch. The intercom crackles. Your backseater's voice tinny and thin against the backdrop of thunder, but you barely register it. Words become fragments, chopped apart by the sound of power concentrated and unleashed. Outside, the ground crew have already moved clear. They wave their signals, but you hardly need them. Your eyes flick across the gauges, the needles trembling against the dials, everything straining at the limits. The throttle is firm in your hand, vibrating with the surge of the engines. Each nudge forward makes the Phantom growl deeper, louder, more demanding. The jet wants to move, to leap, to claw its way into the sky. You hold it in check for now, brakes locked, the whole machine trembling against the restraint like an animal waiting to be let loose. The smell of fuel is stronger than ever. It seeps in through the vents, sharp and chemical, mixing with the hot air until every breath feels like you're inhaling a mouthful of liquid fire. It burns the back of your throat, clings to your tongue, stings your sinuses. Sweat runs down your temples, soaks into the collar of your suit, trickles down your spine. The heat is suffocating. The cockpit is a furnace, every surface radiating warmth. The canopy magnifying the sun until it feels like you're roasting inside a sealed glass box. You shift in your seat, but there's no relief. The straps hold you tight. The gear presses against your ribs. The helmet clamps down on your head. Every part of you is contained, bound, pressed. You nudge the throttle forward again, and the Phantom screams in answer. The sound is violent, tearing through the air, rattling the cockpit so hard that your teeth buzz. It's inescapable. You feel it in your chest, your stomach, your bones. It's like being caught inside a storm, except the storm is inside your own machine, inside your own body. And this is only the start. Once you push the throttle into afterburner, the sound will multiply, will become so powerful that words lose meaning. You won't hear the world anymore, only the thunder of your own engines. The runway stretches out in front of you, shimmering with heat waves, the edges blurring into the green of the jungle beyond. You taxi forward slowly, the brakes squealing, the nose of the Phantom dipping and rising with each bump. Other aircraft line up beside you, other Phantoms and Skyhawks, their own engines howling into the thick morning air. The combined sound is unbearable, a wall of noise that makes the ground itself tremble. The sky above is already streaked with heat shimmer, waves of distortion rolling upward from the tarmac. Your chest tightens, not just from the pressure of the harness, but from the anticipation, the knowledge of what comes next. Every mission starts this way, with the sound of engines tearing through your body, reminding you that you're not in control anymore. The machine is. You can guide it, steer it, push it, but once the throttles go forward, you are strapped to raw force that no human could generate. You are just along for the ride, even if your hands are on the controls. The radio crackles again, distorted by static and the roar of engines. You catch the order, clipped and quick, and push the throttle forward. The Phantom lurches, the brakes release, and the machine surges onto the runway. The sound intensifies immediately, slamming into you with full force. The cockpit shakes, the stick vibrates in your hand, your helmet rattles against the seat. The roar fills your chest until you can't tell where your body ends and the engine begins. It's not just sound anymore. It's pressure, weight, a living thing that wraps around you and crushes you down into the seat. Your heart is racing, pounding against your ribs, trying to keep pace with the machine. The vibrations make your vision blur, the edges of the canopy trembling as the jet accelerates. You can feel every bolt, every rivet, every seam of the Phantom as it claws forward, building speed, demanding more. You push the throttle further, and the afterburners kick in. The sound explodes. There's no other word for it. It's an explosion stretched out, a continuous detonation that rattles your skull and shakes your spine. The Phantom leaps, the engine spitting fire out the back, the entire machine screaming so loud it feels like the air is tearing apart behind you. Your chest vibrates, your stomach clenches, your ears ring even through the padding. You can't escape it. It's inside you now, pressing against your lungs, buzzing in your teeth, making your whole body feel like a tuning fork hit with a hammer. The runway blurs beneath you, the nose lifting, the weight shifting. The roar doesn't fade as the wheels leave the ground. It intensifies. The jet surges upward, the engines howling into the sky, and you're slammed back into the seat with force that makes your head press against the cushion. Your body feels pinned, crushed, as if gravity itself has turned against you. That noise is everything, all-encompassing, a constant reminder that the Phantom is less a plane and more a controlled explosion wrapped in steel. You glance down at the gauges, needles trembling at the edge of the dials, everything redlining as the engines strain to keep up with what you're demanding. The heat rises, sweat soaking into your gloves, dripping from your chin inside the mask. You grip the stick tighter, knuckles white, eyes fixed on the horizon that tilts and shifts as you climb. The roar doesn't lessen. It never does. It just changes pitch, changes texture. Always there, always pressing. Your backseater's voice comes through again, muffled, cut by static, drowned beneath a scream. You catch fragments, not enough to form full sentences. You nod anyway, even though he can't see you, because it's the only response you can give in this wall of noise. Communication becomes survival. Clipped words shoved between bursts of static, filtered through the constant thunder of the engines. The world outside the canopy is a blur of motion. The ground drops away, the runway shrinking, the jungle spreading out in endless green waves. Clouds loom ahead, white towers against the blue, but the roar inside the cockpit drowns them out, makes them secondary. The sound is your world now. It fills your chest, presses into your ears, shakes through your bones. And as the phantom climbs, as the engines tear through the sky with relentless force, you realise once again that you're not just flying a jet. You're strapped to a noise so powerful it owns you, so constant it drowns out thought, so heavy it feels like it's carved into your body. It will be with you the entire flight, from takeoff to landing, never letting you forget that you are just one fragile body inside a machine built to scream. Your body is pressed into the seat, the straps cutting across your chest, the helmet tight on your head, the engine screaming behind you so loudly that it feels like your bones are vibrating. You've felt this before, so many times that it should be routine, but it never is. Because every time the Phantom hurtles down the runway, every time the afterburners spit fire, and the machine tears itself into the sky, there's something in your chest that doesn't settle. The adrenaline is there, flooding you before you even leave the ground, sour and metallic in your mouth, a taste you can never quite spit out. Your hands are steady on the stick and throttle, but you feel it anyway. That twitch under the skin, that buzzing in your jaw, that pressure in your chest that makes you breathe faster even when you try to force the rhythm slow. The adrenaline isn't cinematic. It doesn't make you feel powerful. It makes you feel sick. Your stomach twists, your throat tightens, and the taste rises up the back of your mouth, bitter and sharp, like copper mixed with bile. You swallow it down, but it lingers. It always lingers. The jet climbs, the nose tilting up, the ground shrinking into a blur of green and brown beneath you. The roar doesn't fade, not even a little. The engines are a constant scream in your chest, but layered over it now is the pulse of your own blood, hammering in your ears so hard it almost drowns out the intercom. Your vision is clear, but your body is buzzing, alive in a way it doesn't want to be. Every nerve feels electric, every muscle wound tight. You grip the stick harder than you need to, not because you're losing control, but because you're holding onto something solid in a world that feels like it's slipping away beneath you. The taste is the worst part. That sour burn at the back of your tongue, that coppery edge that won't leave no matter how many times you swallow. It creeps down into your chest, mixes with the bile sitting in your stomach, makes the coffee and powdered eggs from breakfast feel like they're clawing their way back up. You breathe deep through the mask, but even that tastes of rubber and chemical air, hot and stale as it floods your lungs. There's no freshness, no relief, just more pressure layered on top of the adrenaline that won't stop pumping. Your backseater says something through the intercom, his voice clipped, professional, steady in the way that only repetition can make it. You nod, answer back, your own words flat but calm. Outwardly you're composed, you always are. No one talks about the sickness, the metallic taste, the tightness in the chest. You can't afford to, you can't show it, so you keep your voice level, your movement smooth. while inside your body is screaming with chemical urgency, every cell vibrating with the knowledge that the sky ahead is filled with things that want to kill you. You glance at the gauges again, not because you need to, but because looking at the dials keeps your eyes steady, keeps your mind fixed on something solid. Fuel levels, altitude, speed. They ground you more than the seat does. Each needle points where it should. Each dial trembles where expected. The numbers are your reassurance, the one thing in this world of noise and fear that follows rules. The adrenaline doesn't fade as you climb. If anything, it sharpens. The higher you go, the more your stomach feels hollow, the more your throat burns with a sour, metallic tang. You lick your lips, but it doesn't help. The taste is in your blood now, not your mouth. You feel it in every breath, in every heartbeat, in the way your vision seems just a little too sharp, as if every edge in the world has been honed down to a knife. The clouds ahead look brighter, the jungle below darker, the horizon too clear. It's the body's way of preparing, sharpening every sense until it feels unnatural. You don't want to admit it, but there's a part of you that hates this feeling more than the missions themselves. Combat is chaos, noise, movement. But this climb into the sky with the adrenaline burning through you is worse. It's the anticipation that eats you alive. The knowing that in minutes you'll be over hostile ground, that missiles may already be tracking you from the jungle, that the calm of this moment is nothing but a curtain hiding what comes next. Your body knows it, even if your brain tries to quiet it. That's why the adrenaline comes so fast, so sharp, so sickening. You haven't seen the enemy yet, but your body acts like you have. You tighten your grip again, shift in your seat, flex your legs against the squeeze of the G-suit just to remind yourself you can. The pressure against your thighs is grounding, in its own way, another physical sensation that keeps you anchored in this cramped space. The straps cut into your shoulders, the helmet clamps against your skull, the mask hisses as you breathe. Every piece of gear is uncomfortable, restrictive, hot. But they also remind you that you're still here, still strapped into something solid, still holding on against the rush in your blood. The radio crackles again, this time from the lead. A clipped order, a reminder of formation, a call to adjust. You follow automatically, the stick shifting beneath your hand, the phantom banking slightly as you fall into line with the others. You glance to the side, see the shadow of another jet keeping pace, its fuselage shimmering in the heat, its engine spitting fire just like yours. The sight steadies you a little. You're not alone in this sky. There are others strapped into their own cages of steel and adrenaline, each one fighting the same sour taste in their mouth, each one forcing their body to stay calm while everything inside screams otherwise. The jungle stretches below, endless, dense, green waves, broken only by the occasional ribbon of river glinting in the sunlight. It looks almost peaceful from up here, almost beautiful, but you know better. Somewhere down there are men with rifles, with anti-aircraft guns, with missiles ready to launch into the sky. Somewhere down there is death, waiting to reach up and drag you out of this seat. The thought makes the taste in your mouth sharper, the bile rising again. You swallow hard, force it down, and focus on the horizon. The phantom keeps climbing, engines howling, the noise a constant storm around you. You glance at the fuel gauge, already ticking lower faster than you'd like. The jet is always hungry, always demanding, always reminding you that your time up here is limited. That too feeds the adrenaline. The knowledge that even without enemy fire, there's a clock ticking against you. Every pound of thrust burns pounds of fuel, and every minute in the sky eats away at your margin for survival. You shift again, adjust the throttle, glance at the gauges. Anything to keep your hands busy, your mind locked in routine. Because the moment you stop, the adrenaline crashes back, sour and heavy, making your stomach lurch and your throat tighten. The taste doesn't fade until the first missiles fly, until the tracers streak the sky, until the chaos replaces the waiting. For now, you endure it, breathing through the mask, gripping the stick, swallowing against the copper in your mouth. It's the part no one talks about, the sickness before the fight. The way your body betrays you with chemicals that don't feel like courage, but like poison. The way the taste clings to your tongue, the way your stomach twists before anything even happens. No briefing prepares you for it, no training manual mentions it, but every pilot knows. Every pilot feels it. And every pilot swallows it down, straps in tighter, and keeps climbing into the sky. Because there's no choice but forward. And as the engines roar, the horizon tilts and the jungle stretches endlessly below. The sour taste in your mouth reminds you again that the real fight hasn't even started yet. The phantom is climbing, the nose tilted high, the jungle shrinking below until it becomes a sea of green, broken only by winding rivers, and the occasional smudge of brown where villages cling to the earth. The engines roar behind you, constant and relentless, a scream that fills the cockpit until it becomes part of your body. You don't hear it anymore, not as a sound. You feel it in your chest, in your stomach, in your teeth. It presses into you, shoving your spine against the seat, rattling through every strap and buckle that binds you in. The phantom doesn't glide into the sky. It claws, it tears, it screams its way upward like it's ripping holes in the air itself. The canopy rattles with the force, the frame vibrating in rhythm with the engines. Your helmet hums against your skull, the padding buzzing with the vibration. The oxygen mask hisses with each breath, hot air flooding into your lungs, tasting of rubber and chemicals. You swallow hard against the sour taste still coating your mouth, the copper edge of adrenaline that lingers no matter how many times you force it down. The world outside is vast, endless, blindingly bright, but the cockpit feels like a furnace, hot and cramped, sweat running down your neck, soaking into the collar of your suit. You glance to the side, and there they are. Other phantoms keeping pace, their fuselages shimmering in the heat, their wings bristling with bombs and missiles. Each one is screaming just like yours, each one vibrating with the same raw force. From a distance they might look like predators, sleek and powerful, but up close their beasts are held together by bolts, wires, and the sheer will of the men strapped inside them. You catch a glimpse of a helmeted head turning your way, a gloved hand giving a signal, and then you're back to the gauges, back to the stick, back to the endless roar that drowns out everything else. Below, the jungle rolls on forever. It looks soft from this height, almost like a blanket stretched across the earth. But you know what hides beneath it? Anti-aircraft batteries dug into clearings, missile crews hunched over launchers, villages turned into supply depots, roads hidden under the canopy where trucks move supplies north and south. It's not peaceful. It's not untouched. It's alive with danger that waits silently until you fly too close. You scan the horizon. Eyes flicking across the green, the rivers, the mountains that rise in hazy blue ridges to the west. Somewhere out there, invisible for now, is the enemy. The formation holds steady, each jet keeping its distance, each one locked in the rhythm drilled into you over endless hours of training. The radio crackles, clipped voices cutting through the static, issuing headings, altitudes, confirmations. You respond automatically, your own voice flat, professional, detached. The words are routine, but the meaning behind them never is. Every call sign, every vector, every altitude is a step closer to the target, a step deeper into hostile sky. The sound doesn't let up. The Phantom doesn't ease into a cruise the way a civilian plane might. It screams at every speed, every altitude, every moment. The engine's always loud, always hungry, always shaking the cockpit until your bones feel like they're part of the machinery. You've learned to live with it, to talk through it, to think around it, but it never disappears. Even hours later, long after you've landed, the phantom roar still echoes in your ears, a reminder that you are part of a machine built on noise. You adjust the throttle, feel the jet respond instantly, a surge of power that pushes you deeper into the seat. The horizon tilts slightly, the jungle sliding sideways, then levels again as you roll back to formation. The stick feels alive in your hand, vibrating constantly, reminding you that the Phantom is never still. It's always moving, always shuddering, always fighting against the air it rips apart. You squeeze it tighter, your gloves slick with sweat, your knuckles pressing white under the leather. The sky ahead is hazy, the sunlight diffused through a layer of humidity that makes everything shimmer. Clouds tower in the distance, white columns that rise higher than mountains, their tops glowing in the sun. You know how deceptive they are. From far away, they look soft, harmless, but flying through them means turbulence that can rattle the jet hard enough to throw you off course, lightning that can fry circuits, and cover that hides missiles until it's too late. You skirt them when you can, dive into them when you have to, but never forget what they conceal. Your stomach twists again, the adrenaline sharpening with every mile deeper into the sky. You breathe through the mask, forcing the rhythm steady, but the tightness in your chest doesn't ease. The sweat stings your eyes, trickles down your temples, soaks into your gloves. You flex your legs. Feel the squeeze of the G-suit inflate as the Phantom banks slightly. The pressure bites into your thighs, into your abdomen, reminding you that your body is just another system being managed, kept barely functional under forces it was never meant to endure. You glance at the map tucked into the pocket of your vest, the paper already curling from the humidity. You don't need to read it. You know the route by memory now, burned into your brain from the briefing. Still, you check, your eyes scanning the lines, the circled target, the dotted escape routes. It's a ritual, a way to steady yourself, even if the map won't matter once the tracers fill the sky. The intercom crackles again, your backseater running through checks, calling out readings, watching the systems you can't see from up front. His voice is calm, steady, the kind of calm that comes from necessity rather than ease. You answer in clipped replies, your own tone even, hiding the sickness in your gut, the sour burn at the back of your throat. Neither of you mentions it. Neither of you has to. It's understood. The climb levels out, the Phantom settling into speed, the roar steady but no less overwhelming. You glance at the altimeter, the needle steady where it should be, then sweep across the gauges again, each one trembling slightly from the vibration. Everything reads fine. Everything is working. But you know how little that means. Systems fail, gauges lie. And even if every needle points where it should, it won't stop the jungle below from firing missiles into the sky. The horizon stretches endlessly ahead, the world below vast and indifferent. You feel small in the cockpit, strapped into steel and noise, one man in a machine screaming across the sky. You know the mission, the target, the route, but right now all you can think about is the sound, the constant roar that fills every inch of space, that presses into your chest, that vibrates through your skull. It's the soundtrack of the war, the noise that will follow you into sleep tonight, the hum that never leaves even when you close your eyes. The phantom keeps screaming forward, engines hungry, cockpit shuddering, sweat soaking every layer of fabric you're bound in. The formation holds, the horizon shifts, and the jungle below waits silently. You grip the stick, steady your breath and keep moving, because there's no stopping now. The phantom has levelled out, screaming forward through the haze of the morning sky. But if you thought climbing into the air would bring relief, it doesn't. The heat doesn't stay behind on the tarmac. It comes with you, trapped inside the cockpit, amplified by the canopy that turns sunlight into a magnifying glass burning down on your head. The air is thick, stifling, pressing against your skin through the suit and vest, every layer soaking with sweat. You're flying at hundreds of knots, slicing through the sky, but inside the cockpit it feels like sitting in a sauna that's been sealed shut. The suit is already plastered to your body, damp and heavy. The undershirt beneath is soaked through, clinging to your chest, your back, your arms. Sweat pools at the small of your spine, slides down the grooves of your ribs, trickles across your stomach. It gathers in your gloves until your fingers slip inside the leather, slick and uncomfortable. The oxygen mask doesn't help. Each breath is hot, thick, forced, like inhaling through a wet rag. The air floods in with a hiss, chemical and stale, but never cool. You swallow hard, but it only spreads the sour metallic taste across your tongue, mixing it with the salt of sweat that leaks into your mouth. The canopy fogs in patches where the sun hits, little halos of condensation that smear your view until you wipe at them with your glove. It doesn't last. Within seconds, the heat brings the fog back, the glass beading with moisture like a greenhouse window. You blink through it, eyes stinging as sweat drips down from your brow into the corners, burning slightly as it mixes with the grime already clinging to your skin. The helmet padding is soaked too, pressing damp against your temples, itching where the salt dries into your hairline. You shift, tilt your head, but the pressure doesn't ease. The helmet isn't coming off until you're back on the ground. The stick is slick in your hand, the throttle worse. Your gloves slip as you adjust, the leather squeaking faintly against the metal. You tighten your grip, flex your fingers, but it doesn't help. Everything is wet. Every movement reminds you that there's no dryness here, no relief. The cockpit is an oven, the heat radiating from the panels, the floor, the seat itself. You know the engines are burning just feet behind you, their fire pouring through the steel, and you can feel it through the frame. It makes the air shimmer inside, a faint ripple that blurs the edges of gauges until your eyes adjust again. The G-suit is the worst. Its thick fabric clings tighter as it inflates with each maneuver, pressing against your thighs, your waist, squeezing sweat out in streams. The pressure is supposed to save you, keep blood in your head when the forces pull at your body, but it turns the heat into something unbearable. You feel like you're wrapped in wet canvas, trapped in a pressurized cage. Every squeeze makes you aware of just how soaked you are, how little air is moving through. Your backseater calls something over the intercom, but his voice is muffled, distant, like it's being spoken through the walls of a furnace. You nod, answer, though your own voice sounds strange in your ears, hoarse and thin against the backdrop of roaring engines. You lick your lips, but they're dry, cracked at the edges, even as the rest of you drips with sweat. It's a cruel contradiction. Your body drowning in heat, yet your mouth parched, like you've swallowed sand. You think about the canteen of water waiting back on base, lukewarm as it always is, but even that sounds like luxury now. Up here, all you have is the hiss of hot oxygen through a rubber mask. You try to shift in the seat, arch your back to let air circulate, but the straps hold you too tight. Every buckle, every cord presses into you, cutting off whatever freedom you might have had. The seat is hard, unyielding, the padding already soaked. You can feel the sweat pooling beneath your thighs, soaking into the fabric, making it slick. The more you move, the worse it feels, but staying still only makes you more aware of it. It's a trap, and you can't escape until the mission is over. The smell is overwhelming. Sweat, rubber, fuel, all baked together in the confined space. It seeps into your mask, into your gloves, into the very air you breathe. You can't escape it. It's part of the cockpit, part of the machine, part of the experience. You wonder if you'll ever smell normal air again, air that isn't tainted with chemicals and heat. You can't even remember what that feels like. Outside, the sky looks endless, wide and blue, clouds drifting slowly in the distance. It should feel free, open, vast. But inside, you're trapped in a metal box that feels smaller with every mile. The screaming engines remind you constantly that you're part of the machine now, bound to it, and the heat reminds you that your body is fragile, weak, always close to breaking under the strain. You think about the coolness of mornings back home, the feel of wind that actually refreshes, the kind of air that makes you breathe deep just because it feels good. None of that exists here. Here, air is just another burden, hot and stale, flooding your lungs because it has to, not because it helps. You wipe your brow again, the glove dragging sweat down your face, smearing it across your skin instead of clearing it. Your eyes burn, your jaw aches from clenching against the discomfort. Your tongue feels thick in your mouth. You swallow, but it does nothing. The taste of adrenaline is still there, sharper now as the heat makes your stomach churn. You focus on the gauges again, the numbers, the routine, because it's the only thing that steadies you. The phantom keeps screaming forwards, every second a reminder of the environment you're trapped in. There's no relief in altitude, no cool air rushing through vents, no breeze to cut the heat. You're sealed in a glass oven, strapped into gear that holds every drop of sweat against your body, riding a machine that burns hotter than anything you've ever known. And the worst part is knowing this is only the beginning. The mission hasn't even started yet. The sky ahead holds more than heat. It holds fire and smoke and enemies waiting to turn the cockpit sauna into a coffin. The cockpit is loud with more than engines now. The radio crackles in your ears, voices cutting through the static, sharp and clipped, each one carrying the weight of men trying to sound calm when they're anything but. The call signs come first, the nicknames chosen to strip away identity, to turn people into code names that fit neatly on a roster. Yours is one you've heard so many times it barely registers as strange anymore. It isn't your name, it isn't even close, but it's the word you answer to up here. A word barked into the radio in the middle of chaos. A word that becomes the thin thread tying you to the formation around you. You say it flatly, acknowledging the order, the sound of your own voice strange in your ears. The intercom hisses, your backseater speaking behind you. His tone steady but quick, relaying checks, confirming headings, cross-referencing what you're seeing. His call sign is different, but linked to yours. A pairing that only exists in the sky. On the ground, you're two men. Up here, your voices and code words, stripped of anything that makes you human. It's safer that way. When someone doesn't come back, it's easier to say the call sign than the name. The chatter builds as you move deeper into hostile airspace. One voice calls altitude, another adjusts heading. Someone else announces speed. Each one is clipped, professional, precise. But you can hear the edges if you listen closely. The strain hidden behind the flat tones. The catch in the throat when someone repeats a heading twice, as if saying it again will make it safer. The silence that sometimes follows a command, a second too long, betraying hesitation before the voice comes back steady again. The language is its own world, full of brevity codes and jargon drilled into you until it replaces ordinary speech. You don't say what you mean. You say what's efficient. You don't describe the sky ahead as dangerous. You say heavily defended. You don't call out that your gut twists with fear. You say negative visual. The words are armour, shielding the truth behind syllables that sound neutral, even when they're not. But you know what they mean. You've flown enough missions to hear the difference between casual and cautious, between routine and urgent, between someone who still believes they'll come home and someone who doesn't. Every pilot does. It's there in the tone, in the rhythm, in the silence that fills the spaces between transmissions. Your own throat feels dry, the mask pressing tight against your face, the microphone picking up each word, whether you want it to or not. You keep it steady, keep it flat, because any crack will bleed through. Everyone is listening. Everyone is depending on each other. And fear spreads fast if you let it slip through your voice. So you keep it level, even though the sour taste of adrenaline is still in your mouth. Even though sweat is dripping down your jaw into the rubber seal. Even though your chest feels tight with more than just the harness. The static is constant, layered beneath the voices. A reminder that communication here isn't perfect. Words cut in and out, syllables clipped, phrases swallowed by bursts of interference. You have to piece them together sometimes, relying on instinct, on experience, on the rhythm of what's being said. You've trained for it, drilled for it, but in the air it's never clean. Static is its own enemy, creeping in at the worst moments, turning life-saving orders into garbled noise. You hear the lead again, his call sign crisp, his voice clipped but firm. He's the anchor, the one you follow without question, the one who sets the tone. If his voice is calm, you make yours calm. If his voice is urgent, you tighten your grip on the stick and brace for what's coming. He calls out headings, times, coordinates, and you adjust automatically, the stick moving in your hand, the phantom banking in line with the others. The formation shifts smoothly, everyone locked into the rhythm of voices, of call signs, of clipped commands bouncing across the frequency. Your backseater calls out readings again, his tone steady, professional, detached. You answer in the same tone, even though you feel the sweat dripping into your eyes, stinging, even though your stomach clenches tighter with each mile deeper into enemy territory. You keep the words flat because that's what the ritual demands. Words are tools, not expressions. Voices are instruments, not emotions. But the fear is still there. It always is. It hides in the pauses, in the breaths between transmissions, in the way everyone speaks a little faster when the jungle below grows darker, when the coordinates on the map line up with the circles around known anti-aircraft zones. You feel it in yourself too, that urge to speak quicker, to get the words out before the static swallows them, before the engines drown them, before something explodes and makes them meaningless. The chatter isn't constant. There are stretches of silence too, heavy, suffocating silences, where only the roar of the engines fills your ears. Those moments are worse. In silence, you're left with your own thoughts, your own heartbeat thudding in your chest, the taste of bile rising again as you wait for the next voice, the next instruction, the next sound that proves you're not alone in this sky. You glance sideways at the other jets, steady in formation, their canopies glinting, their engines screaming just like yours. You can't hear them, but you know they're there, waiting in the same silence, listening for the same words. Then the radio bursts alive again, a voice sharper this time, clipped with tension. A warning. A radar ping picked up. Possible contacts ahead. The words are flat, clinical, but the meaning isn't. Your grip tightens on the stick. Your stomach twists sharper. The sour taste flooding back stronger. You force your voice steady as you acknowledge, call signs spoken clearly, syllables clipped. The ritual continues, but the fear behind it is heavier now, carried in every word, every pause, every fragment of static. The chatter increases, voices overlapping, clipped phrases cutting in and out, the intercom buzzing as your backseater feeds you updates. Altitude adjustments, heading changes, warnings about potential threats. Each word matters, each one shaping the next second of your life. You focus hard, forcing your brain to cut through the noise, to separate the static from the signal, to cling to the rhythm of call signs and codes. You can't afford to miss a syllable. And through it all, you keep your own voice steady, because up here, in this sky screaming with engines and radios and fear, words aren't just communication. They're lifelines. They're the only thing tying you to the men flying beside you, to the command watching from far behind, to the possibility of making it back. You can't let them hear the fear in your throat, even though it's there, heavy and bitter, pressing against every word you force out. The radio is still alive with clipped voices, call signs bouncing back and forth, altitude adjustments, warnings, confirmations. Your hand is steady on the stick, the roar of the phantom shaking through your chest, the horizon steady in front of you. Then the first call comes through, flat but sharp, a code you know immediately. It's the warning no one ever wants to hear. The one that means the enemy isn't just a possibility anymore. It's real. You don't see it right away. You never do. That's the problem with surface-to-air missiles. They're not there, and then they are. Hidden in the jungle, concealed beneath camouflage nets, buried under trees, waiting silently until someone decides to fire. You know they're out there, always, but the sky is too wide and the ground too dense to pick them out before they move. The only warning you get is the radar screaming in your headset, the sudden voice over the radio, and then the long, white trail clawing upward at impossible speed. Your stomach clenches as the call sign repeats, the warning sharper now. You glance down, instruments twitching, your backseater's voice filling the intercom, rapid fire checks, confirming, scanning. You don't need him to tell you what's happening. You feel it in your chest before you even see it. The adrenaline spikes hard, sharp enough that the sour taste burns at the back of your throat. You look down and there it is. White smoke tearing upwards from the jungle, twisting, snaking through the air, too fast, far too fast. A surface-to-air missile doesn't glide. It rips. It launches with a force so violent it shakes the ground miles away, and then it chases the sky like a predator that's already seen its prey. From your cockpit, it's both far away and terrifyingly close. A streak of smoke that grows longer by the second, reaching higher, angling toward the formation. Your heart slams in your chest, harder than the engines behind you. The stick jerks in your hand as you roll, bank, drop altitude. Your backseater is shouting into the intercom, his words clipped, urgent, feeding you headings, commands. The formation breaks. It always does when missiles rise. No one stays locked in neat patterns now. Jets dive, roll, scatter in practiced chaos, each pilot trusting instinct and training to keep them alive. The radio bursts alive again, overlapping voices, warnings shouted over static, call signs repeated so fast they blur together. Your own voice joins them, flat but loud, announcing your move, confirming you're still here, still alive. The mask muffles you, but the microphone catches it, sends it out into the storm of words and noise. You roll hard, the phantom screaming in protest, the G-suit squeezing your legs until it feels like your blood is being wrung out of them. The horizon flips, the jungle rushing upward, then tilts as you level again. Your stomach lurches, the bile rising higher, the taste of copper sharper now. The missile trail is still there, white against blue, twisting as it hunts. You can't see the missile itself. Not yet. Just the line it leaves behind. A reminder that it's closing the distance every second. Your backseater calls it out. His voice rapid, precise, layered with urgency that doesn't need words to explain. You bank again, throttle forward, the engines roaring louder as the phantom claws for speed. The cockpit shudders, rattles, shakes, the sound of the engines mixing with the static and the hammer of your pulse. You can't think in full sentences anymore. Just reactions. Roll, dive, pull, climb. The missile is somewhere behind you, somewhere rising through the sky, and every movement is an attempt to break its lock, to shake it from your trail before it tears the jet apart. You glance to the side, catch sight of another phantom diving hard, its trail streaking downward, engines spitting fire. Another climbs, rolling, banking violently, its silhouette sharp against the haze. The formation has dissolved into chaos now, each man fighting his own battle against invisible enemies rising from the jungle below. The radio is a wall of sound, clipped warnings, shouted altitudes, urgent calls that blur together. You catch fragments. Brake left. Missile high. SAM launch confirmed. And then static swallows the rest. Your stomach feels hollow, your chest tight, the harness digging deeper as you yank the stick again. The phantom resists, heavy, stubborn, not built for elegance, but you force it anyway. The wings shudder, The frame rattles, the gauges tremble as you push it into maneuvers that test its limits. Sweat pours down your face, stings your eyes, soaks into your gloves. The oxygen mask hisses with each breath, hot and stale, never enough. The missile trail twists closer, the white smoke curling, shifting, hunting. Then you see it, the flash of metal at the tip of the trail, the missile itself, needle sharp, impossibly fast, cutting through the sky straight for you. Your gut turns to ice. The adrenaline spikes so hard it feels like electricity running through your veins. You yank the stick, slam the throttle, the engine screaming louder, the cockpit shaking so violently your teeth buzz. The missile follows, white smoke curling tighter, closer. Your backseater is shouting now, his voice rapid fire, almost panicked but still clipped into codes and readings. You follow without hesitation, banking hard, rolling, diving, the jungle rushing closer, the horizon spinning. The G-suit squeezes tighter, your legs ache, your vision narrows at the edges. You blink hard, force air into your lungs, grip the stick until your knuckles ache. The missile streaks past, close enough that you see the blur of its body, the trail whipping around in a violent arc as it misses by feet, not miles. The relief doesn't come. There's no time, because as soon as one passes, another rises. Another trail of white smoke tears upward from the jungle. Another warning bursts across the radio. Another spike of fear grips your chest. They launch in salvos, in waves. Crews on the ground, firing again and again, until the sky is filled with trails twisting upwards, hunting, always hunting. You push the Phantom harder, the engine straining, the cockpit rattling, every gauge trembling at the edge of red. You feel the heat rising even higher, the sweat soaking deeper, the sour taste choking you as the adrenaline refuses to ebb. Your voice comes out clipped, flat, announcing your move, confirming your survival, joining the chorus of men fighting their own battles in the sky. The chatter is a wall now, fear hidden in codes and call signs. Each voice a reminder that you're not alone, but also that any one of them could go silent at any second. The missiles keep rising. You keep diving, rolling, pulling, climbing. The jungle below looks endless, impenetrable, alive with invisible enemies. You can't see them until they fire, and by then, it's already a fight for your life. And the roar of the engines, the scream of the Phantom, the wall of sound and static and breath inside your mask, it all blends together until you're not sure if it's your own pulse hammering in your ears or the missile closing in again. The missile trails are still hanging in the air behind you, white scars against the blue, twisting downward as they burn out. Your chest is tight, your mouth still bitter, your hands slick inside the gloves. The adrenaline hasn't eased, it only shifted, because you know the missiles aren't the only threat clawing upward from the jungle. The ground isn't silent, it's never silent. And now, as the formation pulls lower, as the targets grow closer, the sky erupts in a different way. At first, it's faint, black puffs in the distance, scattered dots that look harmless until you're closing fast and realise they're not. Anti-aircraft fire doesn't rise like a missile, sharp and obvious. It blossoms. It blooms into sudden explosions that rip the air apart, tearing invisible holes that you can only see once you're in them. The first bursts open around the formation, distant thuds muffled by the roar of your engines, followed by more, closer, louder, sharper. Your eyes flick across the sky, and it's dotted with smoke, trails twisting upward in arcs, glowing streaks of orange tracers slicing through the haze. Your stomach drops again, bile rising higher, the sour taste stronger. Your backseater calls it out over the intercom, clipped, steady, his words buried in the static of the radio as other voices shout warnings, call signs, bearings. The chatter is frantic now, clipped syllables overlapping, each voice louder than the last. But none of it matters when the air itself is tearing open around you. The first tracers streak past, bright orange lines glowing in the humid sky. They move faster than your eyes can track, slashing across your canopy, disappearing before you can even flinch. You bank hard, the phantom groaning, the G-suit squeezing your legs until they ache. The tracers follow, arcing, curling, chasing the formation with mechanical persistence. Your chest is pounding now, every breath forced, every inhale burning hot and chemical through the mask. Then the fireworks start. That's what they look like if you forget what they really are. Black bursts blooming in the sky, sharp flashes of orange at the centre, fragments ripping outward, invisible until they hit something. Dozens, then hundreds, filling the air until it looks like the night sky on the 4th of July. Except every one of them is trying to tear your jet apart, to shred metal and flesh in the same instant. They burst around you, above, below, each one thudding against the air with a punch you feel in your chest. The canopy rattles, the seat shakes, the smell of cordite and smoke seeps in through the vents, mixing with the stench of fuel and sweat. You roll hard again, diving low, the jungle rushing closer, a blur of green beneath you. The bursts follow, trailing behind, exploding in chains across the sky. You can hear it now, faint thumps beneath the engine scream, each one closer, sharper, the sound of the air being shredded around you. Your backseater's voice is sharper too, calling headings, altitudes, bursts, his tone steady but quick, professional but urgent. You answer in the same clipped rhythm, your own words flat, controlled, even though your throat is tight and the sour burn has crawled higher, threatening to choke you. The sky is alive with it now. Everywhere you look, black clouds blossom, glowing at the core, spreading shrapnel invisible until it finds you. The tracers weave through them, bright orange lines curving upward in arcs, filling the air with glowing paths that never stop coming. It looks chaotic, random, but you know it's not. Somewhere below, men are tracking, aiming, firing, calculating angles and speeds to put you right in the middle of it. You feel it in your gut every time another burst blooms too close, rattling the canopy, making the stick shiver in your hand. You jink left, then right, the phantom heavy but responsive, its wings biting against the air, engines roaring in protest. The G-suit squeezes tighter, your legs tingling as the blood shifts. Your vision narrows again at the edges, grey creeping in, but you blink hard, focus, force air through your lungs. You can't black out now. Not here. Not with the sky lit up like this. You see another jet ahead of you, its silhouette darting through tracer fire, bursts exploding around it. The black blossoms chase it, filling the air in front of its path, and it rolls hard, diving out of the cloud just as another chain of tracers slices through where it was. For a second your breath catches, waiting for the explosion, waiting for the fire, but it streaks free, smoke trailing faint behind it, and your stomach drops lower because you know how close it was. The radio is a wall of noise now. Call signs shouted, bursts called out, warnings overlapping. Some voices are calm, some crack at the edges, some cut off mid-sentence. The static fills the gaps, A reminder that at any second, one of those voices might not come back. You grip the stick tighter, knuckles aching inside the gloves, your jaw clenched so hard your teeth grind. The taste of adrenaline is stronger now, bitter, choking, mixing with the sweat dripping into your mouth. The tracers slash past again, so close you can see the glow through the canopy. One burst behind you, the explosion rattling the entire jet, shaking the panels, making the gauges tremble. Your backseater shouts something. You can't catch it fully, but you react anyway, banking hard, diving lower, the jungle rushing closer. Trees blurring beneath you as you skim just above the canopy. The bursts follow, chains of them, but at this altitude they have to guess. And guessing means fewer hits. Still, the sky's alive with explosions, the fireworks never ending, each one a reminder that it only takes one to end everything. The phantom rattles, shakes, groans under the strain. You can feel it in every bolt, every rivet, every seam. The cockpit smells of fuel, of sweat, of hot metal. Your stomach churns, your throat tightens, your eyes sting with sweat and smoke. The adrenaline is too much now, your body screaming with it, buzzing, shaking, barely contained. You force your voice steady as you call back, clipped words, confirming you're still here, still flying, even as the sky tears itself apart around you. And through it all, the tracers keep rising, the bursts keep blooming. The fireworks of war lighting up the sky brighter than any celebration, more relentless than any storm. You dodge, you roll, you dive, you climb, each move a desperate attempt to thread through the chaos, each second a gamble that the next burst won't be the one that finds you. The roar of the engines mixes with the thunder of explosions, the static of the radio, the hiss of your own breath. It's a storm of sound, a storm of fire, a storm of fear you can't escape. And still you push forward, because the mission isn't over, because the target still waits, because survival means flying straight into the heart of it again and again until the sky is empty or you're not. The tracers are still burning upward, black bursts of AAA still blossoming all around you. But then the calls come over the radio. Clip to urgent, unmistakable. Bandit inbound. MiGs in the air. It's the warning you've been expecting since the moment you strapped in, the one you tried to bury under checklists and procedures. The jungle can tear the sky open with missiles and flak, but when enemy fighters arrive, the war shifts into something else entirely. Your heart lurches, the sour metallic taste surging sharper in your mouth, mixing with bile that's been sitting in your stomach since takeoff. The adrenaline spikes so hard your hands tremble against the stick, but you lock them steady, forcing them flat with effort. You don't have the luxury of shaking now. The radio is alive with call signs, voices cutting through static, each one announcing contact, direction, altitude. It all comes fast, too fast, overlapping in a wall of clipped syllables that makes your head spin. Then you see them. Dark specks at first, just shapes against the haze of the horizon. The kind of shapes you've learned not to mistake for birds or clouds. They grow larger, sharper, angled wings and sleek bodies, cutting across the sky with predatory speed. MiGs. Smaller than the Phantom. Lighter. Built for quick turns and bursts of speed. They close the distance fast. So fast it makes your chest tighten harder. 1 second they're distant, the next they're slicing into the formation, guns already flashing. Your backseater calls it out, voice flat but urgent, feeding headings, bearings, distances. You don't answer with words this time. You answer with the stick, Rolling hard, the phantom groaning as it banks, the horizon spinning, tracers streaking past the canopy as you dive into the fight. The roar of the engines mixes with the rattle of gunfire, the thunder of flak still bursting below, the static of the radio as pilots shout bearings and warnings. It's not just noise anymore, it's chaos. The first MiG flashes past, close enough that you see the glint of sunlight off its canopy, the sharp lines of its fuselage before it's gone. You roll again, pull hard on the stick, the G-suit squeezing until your vision darkens at the edges. Your stomach lurches, your chest tightens, the bile rising higher, but you force air through your lungs, blinking against the grey that creeps into your sight. You spot the MiG again, banking sharp, its engines flaring as it cuts across the formation. Your backseater shouts, calling headings, urging you into position. You push the throttle, the phantom surging, engines screaming louder, the cockpit rattling with the force. The distance closes, the MiG sharp against the horizon, darting through bursts of tracer fire. Your hand trembles on the trigger, but you squeeze anyway, the cannons roaring beneath you, the cockpit vibrating with the recoil. Tracers stream forward, glowing lines carving the sky, vanishing into the haze. You don't know if they hit. You don't have time to know. The MiG rolls, dives, vanishes beneath your nose, and you yank the stick again, muscles straining, sweat pouring into your mask. The fight compresses time. It always does. Minutes stretch into eternities, every second filled with too much for your brain to process. You don't think, you react, roll, pull, climb, dive. The MiGs dart in and out of sight, sharp and fast, their guns flashing, their trails cutting across the sky. The radio is a storm, voices shouting call signs, bearing, altitude, desperate commands. Some voices you recognise instantly, others blur into noise. One cuts off mid-sentence, static swallowing it. Your stomach twists harder, but you don't have time to dwell. You can't. Your body is screaming now, and the G-suit squeezes your legs tighter with each pull, your vision tunnelling, black creeping in at the edges, grey pressing against the centre. You grunt, force air into your lungs, strain against the weight that feels like it's crushing you into the seat. Your arms ache, your shoulders burn, your back feels like it's splitting with the effort of holding the stick steady under the load. The sweat is relentless, soaking into your gloves, dripping into your eyes, stinging so badly that you blink hard just to see. The MiG flashes across your canopy again, guns blazing, tracers slicing so close you hear them whip past, sharp cracks lost in the roar of engines. Your heart hammers harder, each beat so violent it feels like it's shaking your chest. You roll again, the horizon spinning, the jungle rushing up and then vanishing as you climb. The phantom is heavy, stubborn, built for brute force, not elegance, but you force it through the motions anyway, dragging it into a fight where every second is borrowed time. Another phantom streaks across your sightline, banking hard, tracers arcing behind it. You catch a glimpse of a MiG on its tail, guns flashing, then hear the clipped call over the radio. Urgent, desperate. You can't think. You pull, roll, dive, line up, squeeze the trigger. The cannons roar again, tracers burning forward, vanishing into the haze. The MiG pulls away, trailing smoke faintly, diving hard. You don't know if it's enough. You don't know if the phantom you tried to cover is safe. There's no time to know. Because another call comes through. Another shape darts across your canopy. Another burst of tracers rips past. It never stops. The minutes stretch endlessly, but when you look at the clock later, You'll realise it was only 5, maybe 6. Dogfights don't last long, not in real time, but inside them, inside the screaming engines and rattling cockpits and clipped voices over the radio, they last forever. Each second is its own lifetime. Each turn ages you. Each burst of gunfire carves another line into your chest. Your backseater shouts headings again, his voice sharp, louder than before. You follow, banking hard, rolling, pulling the Phantom into position again. Your muscles are trembling, your body screaming, but you force it anyway. You line up another MiG, sharp against the horizon, its engines flaring as it cuts through the haze. You squeeze the trigger, tracers roaring forward, and this time you see them connect. Sparks flash against its fuselage, smoke trails from its wing, the jet jerks violently. For a second, hope surges, sharp and hot, but it vanishes as the MiG dives, still flying, still clawing for survival. You don't follow. You can't. Another one is already behind you. Your backseater shouting warnings, urging you into evasive manoeuvres. You roll, dive, pull, the Phantom screaming in protest, the engines roaring louder, the cockpit rattling so violently it feels like it might tear apart. The tracers slice past again, so close you can almost feel the heat through the canopy. Your stomach flips, the bile rising higher, your throat burning. You swallow hard, but the taste is bitter, metallic, choking. You don't have time to vomit. You don't have time for anything but survival, and still the fight goes on. Seconds feel like minutes. Minutes feel like hours. Your body ages with each pull, each roll, each burst of gunfire. You can feel it in your bones, in your chest, in your blood. The adrenaline has burned through you, leaving you shaking, buzzing, hollow, but still pushing, still reacting, still flying. When the MiGs finally break away, when the radio calls announce their retreat, when the sky is suddenly empty again, except for the smoke trails and the scattered formation, you don't feel relief. You feel older. You feel heavier. You feel like the minutes you just lived carved years off your life, dragged them out of you with every turn, every burst, every second of chaos. Your hands are trembling, your jaw aches from clenching, your stomach still burns with bile. The engines still scream, the cockpit still rattles. The mission isn't over. But you know already that no matter how many missions you fly, no matter how many times you climb into this cockpit, those few minutes of dogfighting will never leave you. They don't fade when the engines shut down. They don't disappear when you unstrap. They cling to you, aid you, wear you down from the inside out. Because up there, in those few eternal minutes, you lived more than most men do in years. And you paid for it with years you'll never get back. The sky has gone strangely quiet. The tracers aren't slicing past the canopy anymore. The black blossoms of flak have drifted behind you, and the MiGs have pulled away, leaving only trails of smoke fading into the haze. But the silence isn't relief. It never is. Because silence gives space for another kind of enemy. One that doesn't come with a flash or a roar. One that doesn't announce itself with explosions. It creeps. It's already been creeping since the moment you pushed the throttles forward at takeoff. And now, with the chaos behind you, you feel it catching up. You glance at the gauge. You don't need to. You already know what it will say. The needle trembles low, lower than you want it to be, lower than it should be for where you are. The Phantom burns fuel like fire eats wood, greedily, endlessly, faster than your mind can count. Every surge of the engines, every evasive roll, Every afterburner run has chewed through that ply. You knew it would. You always know it will. But knowing doesn't change the numbers staring back at you now. Your backseater calls it too. Voice flat but edged, reading the levels, confirming what you already see. There's no comfort in hearing it out loud. Just a reminder that the tank is draining, the options shrinking, the runway that feels impossibly far away pulling itself even farther. You acknowledge with a clipped word, voice steady even though your throat feels like it's closing. You can't let it tremble. Not now. The radio is quieter too. The frantic chatter of dogfights has thinned, replaced by clipped check-ins, scattered confirmations, muted voices that all carry the same weight. Everyone is looking at their gauges now. Everyone is watching the needles sink. You can hear it in the pauses, in the shortness of words, in the way call signs come slower, flatter, heavier. No one says the word fuel out loud unless they have to, because saying it makes it real. But it's real anyway, creeping into your stomach like ice. The Phantom drones on, engines still roaring, cockpit still rattling, the air outside still shimmering with heat. But you feel weaker now, smaller, less in control. The machine isn't yours anymore. It belongs to the fuel, to the numbers ticking lower with every second. You can fly like an ace, dodge every missile, survive every burst of flak. But if the fuel runs out, none of it matters. The Phantom will glide for a while, but only for a while. And then it won't. You think about the distance back to base, about the endless green of jungle beneath you, about the rivers twisting through it like veins. There's no flat land, no safe place to put down if the engines flame out. Just trees stretching forever. Trees that would tear the jet apart in seconds, splintering it into fire and steel. You think about the rescue procedures, the codes you scribbled down during briefing, the helicopters that might come if you eject. But you also think about the silence that sometimes answers when a call goes out, about the men who drifted down into the jungle and were never heard from again. Your stomach twists harder, the bile rising again, but you swallow it down. The taste is worse than before, bitter, metallic, layered with the chemical sting of adrenaline that hasn't faded since the first missile launched. Your gloves are slick with sweat, your grip on the stick slippery even as you squeeze harder. The harness digs into your shoulders, the mask presses against your face, the oxygen hisses with each breath. You feel trapped, sealed in a machine that's slowly bleeding to death around you. Your backseater reads another number, flatter now, tighter, his voice quick as if speed could change it. You nod, answer, adjust the throttle slightly, trying to stretch the fuel, trying to coax the Phantom into sipping instead of guzzling. But you know it's hopeless. The jet is what it is, heavy, greedy, demanding. Takes what it wants and leaves you with the anxiety of watching the gauge sink lower anyway. The horizon is hazy, distant, endless. The radio crackles with another clipped voice. Someone calling their own levels. Someone requesting vectors to the nearest tanker. Someone's tone sharper than it should be. You know the sound. That tightness in the throat. That edge in the voice. It's the sound of a man calculating whether he'll make it or not. You glance at your own gauge again, at the needle trembling just above the red, and feel the same calculation forming in your head whether you want it or not. You think about the tanker aircraft, those lumbering giants that carry the lifeline in long, refueling booms. You picture them somewhere out there, steady, slow, waiting to pump liquid hope into your tanks. But they're never close enough when you need them most. They're always too far, always one more stretch of hostile sky away. And the Phantom doesn't wait politely. The needle keeps sinking, no matter what you picture. The cockpit feels tighter now, smaller, hotter. The sweat is unrelenting, pouring down your spine, soaking into your undershirt, dripping into your gloves until your fingers slip inside the leather. The oxygen mask is suffocating, the air hot and thick, the hiss constant in your ears. Your jaw aches from clenching, your chest from the harness. You shift in the seat, but it doesn't help. Every movement only reminds you that you're trapped in a steel box that runs on a resource you don't have enough of. Your heart is hammering again, harder now, sharper, each beat pressing against your ribs like it's trying to escape. You can hear it in your ears, louder than the static, louder than the clipped voices on the radio. You blink, force your eyes back to the gauges, force your mind back to the checklist, force your voice flat as you acknowledge another reading from the back seat. It's ritual again, the only thing keeping you steady as the numbers betray you. You think about what happens if the gauge hits 0. You've thought about it before, always, every mission, because it's never impossible. You picture the engine sputtering, coughing, then falling silent. You picture the cockpit suddenly quiet, unbearably quiet, the roar replaced by nothing. You picture the nose dipping, the jungle rushing closer, the straps pulling tighter as gravity takes over. You picture reaching for the ejection handle, yanking it, the explosion blasting you out into the sky, the parachute snapping open, the world suddenly too big and too hostile. You picture the jungle swallowing you whole, the sound of engines replaced by the buzz of insects, the crack of branches, the voices of men hunting you. The thought makes the bile rise again, sharp and sour, but you choke it back, grip the stick tighter, force your eyes back to the horizon. You can't let it take over. You can't afford it. Not while the Phantom is still flying, not while the engines are still screaming, not while there's still fuel in the tank. No matter how little. You focus on each second, each breath, each clipped word into the radio, because hope is just as fragile as fuel, and it runs out just as fast. The jungle rolls on beneath you, endless, indifferent. The radio keeps crackling, voices flat but urgent. The gauge keeps dropping, and all you can do is keep flying, keep swallowing the sour taste, keep hoping that the needle doesn't hit 0 before you find a tanker, before you see the runway, before the Phantom gives up and drags you down with it. The gauge sinks lower, the needle trembling near the edge, and even though the engines are still roaring, even though the Phantom still claws through the sky, you can't stop thinking about what happens if it quits. It's not just the silence of an engine flameout that creeps into your imagination. It's what comes after. Because running out of fuel is only one way the sky can betray you. The other is faster, louder, and just as likely. A missile you don't see, a burst of aid that blooms too close, a MiG diving from the sun. All it takes is one hit and the Phantom becomes fire. Fire means ejection, and ejection means drifting down into the jungle that has swallowed so many before you. You try not to dwell on it, but you can't help it. The thought has been there since your first mission, sitting in the back of your head like a splinter you can't dig out. What happens if you're shot down? Not if, when. Everyone knows the odds. The more missions you fly, the higher they climb. Some men dodge them for months. Some don't make it through their first. The jungle doesn't care which you are. You picture the canopy blowing off, the explosion of the ejection seat kicking you up and out, the violent snap of the parachute opening. You've drilled it, you've practiced it, you know the motions. But drills don't prepare you for what comes after, for the silence once the chute opens, for the way the world suddenly feels too big, too empty, too full of enemies. You imagine hanging there, suspended, helpless, the jungle rising to meet you. No control left, no machine beneath you, just fabric and cords and gravity. You picture the ground rushing closer, the canopy of trees stretching endless and thick, waiting to swallow you whole. And then you picture what waits inside. The jungle isn't just trees. It's heat and insects, mud and rivers, shadows that hide everything from snakes to enemy patrols. It's noise that never stops, the constant hum of life that makes silence impossible. And somewhere in it are men who know the terrain, who know how to track, who know how to hunt. If you land there, your prey, your flight suit, your helmet, your parachute, they all mark you, bright targets in a world of green. You've heard the stories. Pilots captured before they even unbuckled their harness, dragged out of the brush by rifles and ropes. Your stomach twists harder, the bile rising again, and you swallow it down, the taste sharp and sour. The oxygen mask muffles your breath, but you can hear it anyway, heavier now, faster, more shallow. Your gloves slip against the stick, slick with sweat, and you tighten your grip until your knuckles ache. You try to focus on the gauges, on the horizon, on the clipped voices still crackling over the radio, but the thought pushes through anyway. Being shot down isn't just about the crash. It's about what comes after, the part you can't control, the part training doesn't cover. Your backseater knows it too. He doesn't say it, but you can hear it in his voice when he reads the gauges, when he calls bearings, when his words come just a little quicker than before. You both know that if the Phantom goes down, you'll go down together. 2 parachutes drifting into the green, 2 targets waiting to be found. You've seen the maps, the dotted lines that mark escape routes, the codes scrawled into notebooks, the radio frequencies meant to bring rescue. You've practiced the words you'd say into the static, the clipped phrases that are supposed to bring helicopters roaring over the trees. But maps don't matter when you're lost in the canopy. Codes don't matter if the radio breaks on impact. Rescue doesn't matter if the enemy gets there first. The jungle below looks endless, stretching out in every direction, a carpet of green broken only by rivers glinting in the sun. From up here, it looks solid, almost soft, but you know better. It's a wall of branches and vines and mud, a place that consumes whatever falls into it. You imagine the sound of your chute tearing as it catches in the trees, the jolt of your body slamming into branches, the harness digging into your shoulders as you hang suspended above the ground. You picture fumbling with the straps, the knife in your hand, sawing through cords while your ears strain for any sound that isn't jungle. A footstep, a voice, a rifle bolt sliding home. The thought is enough to make your chest tighten until it hurts. You breathe harder, faster, force yourself to slow it down, to match it to the hiss of oxygen flooding your mask. Inhale, exhale. But the fear is heavier than air. It presses in, as thick as the heat, as suffocating as the straps biting into your chest. You can't shake it. You don't think anyone does. You remember the stories, the ones whispered in tents at night, told in low voices between men who knew they shouldn't speak them out loud. The pilots captured and paraded in villages, beaten, photographed, broadcast on enemy radio. The ones marched north, dragged through mud and jungle to prison camps where months stretched into years. Some came back, thin and broken but alive. Others didn't. Their names hang in silence, spoken carefully, reminders of what waits if you fall into the wrong stretch of trees. The gauge trembles lower again, and you glance at it, heart hammering harder, stomach hollow. The phantom still roars, still claws through the sky, but you know how quickly that can change. One burst of flak, one streaking missile, one burst of cannon fire from a MiG. The line between flying and falling is razor thin, and you live balanced on it every second. You wipe at your eyes again, the glove dragging sweat across your face, stinging as it smears into your skin. The mask shifts, pressing tighter, suffocating. You want to pull it off just for a second, to breathe something that isn't hot and chemical and stale. But you don't. You can't. You're trapped in it, just like you're trapped in the thought of what waits below. The radio crackles again, clipped voices cutting through the static. Someone's fuel is lower than yours. Someone's voice carries that edge you recognize, the fear pressed flat under discipline. You acknowledge your own readings, your voice level, steady, clipped into the ritual. But behind the words, the same fear sits heavy in your chest, because the jungle is waiting. The enemy is waiting. And every second you stay in the sky is another chance for them to reach up and drag you down. The phantom drones on, engine still screaming, cockpit still rattling, sweat still pouring. But you can't stop thinking about the moment when it all ends, when the fire tears through the fuselage, when the gauges go dark, when the straps snap you out into the sky. You can't stop picturing the trees rushing up, the branches cracking, the voices in the shadows, the hands pulling you down into a world where survival is no longer about flying, but about hiding, running, enduring. And it's that thought, more than the missiles, more than the tracers, more than the dogfights, that eats at you, because you can dodge fire in the sky, you can outfly an enemy jet, but if you're shot down, if you drift into the jungle behind enemy lines, all the skill in the world won't change the fact that you've gone from predator to prey. The thought has been with you since the briefing. It lingers every time you strap into the cockpit, every time the canopy lowers, every time the engines roar and the phantom claws itself into the sky. The ejection handle sits between your legs, painted bright, impossible to miss. You've touched it 1,000 times, rehearsed the motion until your arm knows the path without needing your brain. But practicing isn't the same as doing. You tell yourself you'll never need it, that you'll make it through every mission with the phantom beneath you. Still, it's there, waiting. And you know one day it might be the only choice left. The moment doesn't come with warning. 1 second, the cockpit is alive with noise and vibration. The gauge is trembling, the radio buzzing with clipped voices. The engines roaring so loud it feels like the air itself is tearing apart. And then something changes. Maybe it's a flash of light as a missile detonates too close. Maybe it's a jolt as shrapnel punches through metal. Maybe it's a sudden silence as an engine coughs, sputters, and dies. However it happens, it leaves no doubt. The phantom isn't going to make it. And that means you won't either unless you let it go. Your stomach clenches so hard it hurts. Your throat closes. The bile surges higher, sharper, sourer than ever. Your chest feels like it's caving in. your pulse hammering against your ribs, louder than the alarms that blare across the cockpit. The smell of smoke might be there, or maybe it's just the stench of sweat and rubber trapped in your mask. You don't know. You don't care. All you know is the phantom is no longer yours, and the handle is. Your hand moves before your brain catches up. It's instinct, drilled into you until the action is automatic. You grab the handle, fingers clamping tight, gloves slick with sweat but locked into the metal anyway. For a fraction of a second, you hesitate, because pulling it means leaving behind everything familiar, even if familiar means fire and noise and chaos. But hesitation is death. You yank. The world explodes. Not fire, not impact, violence. The canopy blows first, the charge is detonating with a crack so loud it drowns even the engines. Glass shatters upward, fragments spinning into the sky. A split second later, the seat ignites. The rockets beneath it fire, and you're launched out with a force so brutal it tears every thought from your head. One moment you're strapped into the cockpit, the next you're being punched into the air at hundreds of miles per hour. Your body slammed back so hard it feels like your bones are breaking. The air hits you instantly. It's not just wind, it's a wall, a hurricane, a storm slamming into you at 600 miles an hour. Your helmet rattles against your skull. Your neck jerks so violently you feel it snap at the base, pain shooting down your spine. The mask digs deeper into your face, the straps biting so hard they feel like they're cutting skin. Your chest feels crushed, your arms ripped against the harness, your legs whipping forward with such force you're sure they'll tear free. You can't breathe. The air doesn't let you. It shoves into your mouth, your nose, your lungs, but it doesn't feel like oxygen. It feels like drowning in speed. The seat kicks clear, explosive bolts firing, the straps releasing with violent precision. You're flung free, suspended for a moment in chaos, limbs flailing, body spinning. Then the parachute deploys. It doesn't unfold gently. It detonates above you. Fabric snapping open with a crack so sharp it rattles your teeth. The cords snap tight, jerking your body upward with whiplash force. Your shoulders scream, your spine compresses. Your hips feel like they've been wrenched from their sockets. But the chute holds. It holds, and suddenly the violence shifts into silence. Almost silence. The wind still rushes past, the chute flapping above you, your breath ragged in your ears. But compared to the phantom's roar, compared to the seat's explosion, compared to the scream of tearing through the sky at 600 miles an hour, it feels like quiet, too quiet. And in that quiet the fear changes, it sharpens. Because now you're not moving at supersonic speed, you're falling, slowly, visibly, helplessly, down toward the jungle that stretches out below in endless green. Your stomach twists again, sharper this time, because there's no control left. No stick to grip, no throttle to push. Just cords, fabric, gravity, and the endless expanse of trees waiting to swallow you whole. You glance around, scanning the sky, half expecting to see another phantom, another chute, another shape. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But the truth is, no matter how many men drift down with you, the fall is yours alone. The jungle grows closer with every second. The canopy a wall of green broken only by rivers glinting like glass. From above it looks solid, like ground you might actually land on, but you know better. It's a net of branches thick enough to break bones, sharp enough to slice flesh, strong enough to tangle a chute until you're hanging helplessly above the earth. You tug at the straps, adjust your body, try to angle yourself, but the wind decides more than you do. The cords creak, the fabric snaps, your body swings. The ground doesn't stop coming. Your chest is still tight, your stomach still sour, your mouth dry despite the sweat pouring into it. The adrenaline hasn't burned out. It spikes harder with every 100 feet, with every second that brings you closer to the unknown. You imagine the branches hitting you, the jolt as the harness bites into your body, the sudden silence as you stop moving, suspended in a cage of wood and vine. You imagine fumbling for the knife, soaring through cords, falling again, this time into mud, into water, into hands waiting in the shadows. The radio is still strapped to your vest, the antenna jutting awkwardly. You think about using it, about calling, about sending the clipped codes that might bring a helicopter thundering overhead. But you also think about the voices that might hear it first, the ones with rifles and ropes, who know this terrain better than you ever will. Your mouth tastes like copper, your throat burns, your hands tremble against the cords. You breathe hard, force it steady, but it doesn't feel steady. It feels desperate. The jungle is almost here now, the trees rising like spears, the canopy stretching wider and wider. You brace without thinking, every muscle tightening, your body locking up against what's coming. You know the impact will hurt. You know it might break you. But you also know it won't be the end. The end waits inside the green. And that's worse than the fall. Because ejection isn't survival. It's just the beginning of another fight. One where you don't have engines, or cannons or formation. One where you're alone, stripped of everything but sweat, fear, and whatever you can carry. And you know as the branches rush up to meet you, that the terror of ejecting at 600 miles an hour doesn't end when the chute opens. It just changes. From the violence of the sky to the silence of the jungle. From noise you can't escape to silence you can't trust. From one kind of death to another waiting below. The chute opens and the jungle swallows you, branches cracking against your helmet, straps biting into your chest until you can hardly breathe. The noise fades into the constant drone of insects, the rustle of leaves, the groan of trees bending in the wind. You hang there for a moment, tangled in green, heart pounding so hard it rattles your ribs, bile rising sharp in your throat. The phantom is gone. The roar of the engines is gone, and you are alone, but you're not forgotten. At least, that's what you tell yourself. Rescue is supposed to come. That's what the codes are for, what the radios are for, what the helicopters stand by for day and night. You reach for the handset, strapped to your vest, fingers shaking, gloves slick with sweat. The antenna catches on a branch, bending awkwardly as you yank it free. Static hisses in your ear as you tune the frequency, your breath rasping too loud inside the mask. You force it steady, spit out the clipped words you've memorized, call sign, coordinates, the tone flat even though your chest feels like it's caving in. The silence that follows is worse than the fall. Static stretches long, eating seconds that feel like hours. Your pulse hammers louder. Your jaw clenches. Your eyes dart across the endless green. Then a voice crackles through, thin but clear. Acknowledge, repeat, stand by. You want to collapse with relief, but you can't. Because a voice doesn't mean safety. A voice means someone heard you. But it also means others might have too. You try not to think about it, but you can't help it. The enemy listens. They know the same codes. They know the same frequencies. They know that a shoot means a man hanging somewhere in the jungle. A man vulnerable, afraid, waiting for the sound of rotors. You imagine them moving already, rifles slung, boots cutting through the brush, ears pricked for your voice. The radio feels heavier in your hand, like a beacon you can't shut off. The static crackles again, sharper now, the clipped voice calling back, confirming rescue inbound. A helicopter. Somewhere out there, a crew has spun up their engines, rotors chopping into the humid air, racing toward you. You close your eyes for a second, let the thought push back the sour taste in your mouth. You can almost hear it already, the deep whoop, whoop, whoop of blades that mean salvation. But you know better. They don't come quietly. And in this war, noise isn't just hope, it's a target. The minutes stretch, the sweat pours, your body aches from the harness, from the branches digging into your arms and legs. Every insect in the jungle seems to find you at once, crawling across your skin, biting at any exposed inch. You swat blindly, nerves frayed, ears straining for the sound you want and the one you dread. Then you hear it. Distant at first, faint under the hum of the jungle, but unmistakable. Rotors. The noise grows fast, steady, pounding through the trees until it vibrates in your chest. You look up through gaps in the canopy and catch glimpses of it. Olive drab, spinning blades, a nose bristling with guns. A Huey. The most beautiful, ugly machine you've ever seen. Your throat tightens, your chest burns, bile mixes with something close to relief. You wave, even though they can't see you, even though you're still tangled in green. The radio crackles again, clipped confirmation that they've got your position, that they're coming in. Then the tracers start. Bright orange streaks, cutting upward through the canopy, glowing arcs that chase the sound of rotors. The helicopter wavers, banks, guns barking back as smoke trails curl from the jungle floor. The relief in your chest turns sour again, sharp and choking. Rescue doesn't come without a fight, and fights don't always end with you going home. You press yourself against the trunk, trying to disappear into the bark, ears ringing with the crack of gunfire. The jungle erupts with noise, rifles snapping, machine guns hammering, the thump of explosions shaking the ground. The helicopter hovers, swaying, its guns spitting streams of fire into the trees. Tracers slash past its tail, sparks flashing against its skin. You can hear the shouts now, faint but real, voices calling in a language that doesn't belong to you. They're close, too close. Your mouth is dry, your throat raw, but you mutter anyway, clipped words, desperate words, into the radio. Call sign, position, repeat. The voice answers back, calm but hurried, telling you to hold, telling you to stay down, telling you they're coming. You clutch the handset tighter, your gloves shaking, your breath ragged inside the mask. The helicopter dips lower, blades chopping so hard the air itself feels torn apart. Debris whips around, leaves and branches shredded by the downwash. You raise an arm against the storm, your body pressed tighter against the trunk. The door gunner leans out, spraying the jungle with fire, his tracers stitching across the trees. The voices below shout louder, the rifles bark sharper, the air fills with cracking, buzzing, snapping, and through it all, you pray. Not loud, not in words you can even hear over the roar. Just in your chest, in your head, in the way you grip the radio, in the way your heart hammers against your ribs. You pray the rotors hold. You pray the tracers miss. You pray the rope drops, that hands reach down, that you feel yourself lifted out of the green before the enemy breaks through the trees. The jungle doesn't stop burning. The gunfire doesn't stop cracking. The tracers don't stop slicing. But the helicopter holds. It dips lower still, the rope uncoiling, the gunner's fire covering the descent. You stumble forward, branches tearing at your arms, straps catching, body bruised from the fall, but you move anyway. Because rescue isn't quiet. It isn't clean. It's noise and fire and desperate prayers. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it's enough. The sky feels quiet again, but it isn't the kind of quiet that comforts. It's the emptiness that follows noise so violent it's still echoing in your skull. The Phantom drones on, engines still roaring, but after missiles, flak and gunfire, the sound almost feels dull, like background static you've stopped hearing. You glance at the gauges again, eyes sweeping the dials out of habit, even though you've already checked them 100 times. Fuel is low but stable, altitude steady, speed where it should be. Nothing looks wrong, and yet everything feels wrong. Your gloves are still wet, sweat-soaked, the leather soft and slick against the stick. Your chest still aches from the straps biting into you. Your legs from the G-suit squeezing until they felt hollow. Your mouth tastes bitter, metallic, sour with adrenaline that hasn't burned out. Won't burn out until long after the wheels hit the runway. You force a deep breath, the oxygen hissing through the mask. But it doesn't ease the tightness in your chest. Nothing does. The formation is scattered now, stretched thin across the haze. Some voices are still on the radio, clipped and steady, confirming bearings, acknowledging positions. Others are missing. You know not to ask. You know better than to count. Men who don't answer now won't answer later, and saying it out loud makes it real before it has to be. So you keep your voice level, your words flat, your call sign steady. You focus on what's left, not what's gone. That's how you make it back. The jungle stretches endless beneath you. Green waves broken by rivers and villages that pass without notice. You hardly look at them anymore. Your eyes fix on the horizon, on the haze that hides the base you're crawling toward, on the promise of a runway you can't see yet, but need more than anything. Each mile feels longer than the last, each second heavier. The cockpit still burns with heat, the sweat still pouring, the suit still clinging. You've been sitting in the same seat for hours, strapped so tight your muscles scream, pressed so hard into the harness your shoulders ache. The ache is worse now that the chaos has passed. Pain you ignored when tracers ripped through the sky comes flooding back once the silence stretches too long. Your backseater says something over the intercom, his voice calm, steady, but you can hear the weight in it too. He checks the gauges again, runs through the numbers, confirms what you already know. The ritual doesn't stop, even when the fight is over. Especially not then. Ritual keeps hands busy, keeps minds focused, keeps fear from spilling over into the open. You answer with the same clipped words, your voice steady even though your jaw aches from holding it there. Then the base comes into sight. At first it's nothing but shapes on the horizon, shadows in the haze. Then the runway appears, long and flat, a line of black against the green. The towers rise, the hangars spread, the smoke from generators and kitchens curling upward into the humid air. You've seen it before, dozens of times, but it never feels the same. Sometimes it looks like salvation. Sometimes it looks like a reminder that you'll be here tomorrow, strapping in again, doing it all over. Today it looks like both. The radio crackles again. Voices from the ground, clipped clearances, bearings, numbers. You answer, your voice steady. Call sign sharp, tone flat. The approach begins. You adjust the throttle, the phantom responding sluggishly, heavy with the weight of hours, of fatigue, of everything it's carried. The runway grows closer, longer, clearer, stretching ahead like a finish line you're not sure you've earned. The wheels hit hard, harder than you wanted, the impact rattling your spine, jolting through the straps. The tyres squeal against the concrete, smoke curling up behind them. The engines whine, the brakes squeal, the cockpit shudders as the Phantom slows, dragging itself down the runway until the roar fades into a rumble. You guide it toward the line, the taxiway shimmering with heat, the hangars looming closer. The ground feels foreign after hours in the sky, too solid, too slow, too still. The ground crew is waiting, just like always. They wave signals, guide you forward, move with the same calm precision they always do. They don't know what you just saw. Or maybe they do, but it doesn't matter. Their job is to meet the jet, not the man inside it. You taxi to a stop, the brakes squealing again, the Phantom shuddering into silence as the engines wind down. The roar dies, the vibration fades, and for the first time in hours, the world is still, too still. The canopy cracks open with a hiss. The first rush of humid air hits you, hot and heavy, but it feels strange after breathing nothing but stale oxygen for so long. You fumble with the straps, your gloves slipping, your fingers clumsy. Each buckle clicks open slower than it should. Your body feels heavier, older, weaker than when you strapped in. You pull the mask off, the rubber dragging against your skin, and take a breath of real air. It doesn't help. It tastes like jet fuel and smoke, like sweat and dust, like everything you wanted to leave behind. You climb down the ladder, boots clanking against the rungs, legs trembling with every step. The ground feels unsteady, the heat rising from the concrete shimmering in waves. You pull your helmet off, your hair soaked, your face streaked with sweat, your eyes burning. Someone claps you on the shoulder? A mechanic? A crew chief? A buddy who's just glad to see you back? You force a grin, a quick flash of teeth, but it doesn't reach your eyes. You know it. He knows it. Everyone knows it. The smile is part of the ritual. Same as the call sign. Same as the clipped words on the radio. Same as the steady voice that hides the fear. You laugh when someone cracks a joke. You nod when someone says, "Good to have you back." You act like you're fine. But inside your chest is still tight. Your stomach's still sour. Your hands still trembling when no one's looking. The grin stays plastered on your face as you walk back toward the barracks. Helmet under your arm, suit heavy with sweat. But you feel the weight in every step. Because the truth is, you don't come back whole. Not after missiles that almost tore you apart. Not after tracers that stitched the sky inches from your canopy. Not after MiGs that forced you into turns that aged you years and minutes. You come back breathing, yes. You come back walking, yes. But whole, no. That's why the smile never feels real. It's just another mask, another piece of gear you put on so no one sees how close you came to breaking. The base hums with noise, generators, trucks, voices, but it feels far away, muffled, like you're still inside the cockpit with the canopy down. You nod at the men you pass, exchange words you barely hear, walk with steps that feel automatic. The grin is still there, stretched across your face, but you feel the hollowness behind it. It's the same grin you've seen on others, the same one you've forced yourself to return when they walked back into camp. It's the smile that says you're alive, nothing more, and that's supposed to be enough. But you know, As you unstrap the vest, peel off the suit, collapse into the chair inside the barracks, that it isn't. Not really. It's just what you give them, what you give yourself, to make it through the hours between now and the next mission. A smile that's all pretend, because pretending is the only way to keep strapping back in. The base is quieter at night, but not quiet enough. It never is. The generators hum endlessly, their engines rattling through the walls. A vibration that seeps into your bones even after hours in the cockpit. Trucks grind across gravel roads. Men's boots thud against dirt. Voices drift from tents and mess halls. In the distance, artillery rumbles. Dull thuds rolling through the humid air. Sometimes it's outgoing. Sometimes it's not. Either way, the sound doesn't stop. You lie on your cot, staring at the canvas ceiling above you, waiting for silence that never comes. Your body should be exhausted. It is exhausted. Every muscle aches. Every joint stiff. Your back screaming from the hours strapped into the seat. Your face still feels raw from the mask. Your skin burned by the sun through the canopy. The heat hasn't eased. It clings to you even now, sweat soaking the sheets, trickling down your chest, pooling under your legs. You flip the pillow, the mattress, the blanket, but nothing is dry. Nothing is cool. You're still in the cockpit, just without the straps. You close your eyes, hoping the darkness will drag you down, but it doesn't. Behind your eyelids, the day is still there. The white trails of missiles clawing upwards, the black blossoms of flak bursting around you, the orange streaks of tracers slicing across the canopy. You see the MiGs flashing past, their guns sparking, their wings cutting through the haze. You hear the clipped voices on the radio, some steady, some cut off mid-sentence, the static swallowing words you'll never hear finished. You feel the stick vibrating in your hand, the harness biting into your shoulders, the bile rising sharp in your throat. It's all still there, louder now that you're supposed to be resting. You shift on the cot, pull the sheet tighter, try to breathe steady. The air is heavy, thick, filled with the smell of fuel and sweat that never leaves this place. The fan rattles overhead, blades chopping slowly, moving the heat more than clearing it. You think about the cool air back home, the way a night breeze drifts through an open window, clean and quiet. But here, the air is stale, wet, suffocating. You roll over again, press your face into the pillow, but it's no different. Your body twitches with each sound outside. A truck backfiring makes your chest jolt, as if another flak burst has gone off. A door slamming makes your hand twitch toward the ejection handle that isn't there. Even the hum of the generator feels like the Phantom's engines, a phantom noise that rattles through your skull until you can't tell if it's memory or reality. You rub at your eyes, but the images don't fade. They never do. Men shift in the cots around you. Some snore, heavy and unbothered, their bodies too far gone to fight the exhaustion. Others toss like you do, turning, sighing, whispering under their breath. No one talks about it, not directly, but you know you're not the only one who lies awake staring at the ceiling. Sleep here is never whole. It comes in fits, shallow and restless, broken by dreams that feel too real, broken by alarms that can sound at any second. You never fall fully into it. You hover, waiting, braced for the noise to start again. When you do drift off, it doesn't last. The dreams are violent, sharp, too vivid. You feel yourself back in the cockpit, the gauges trembling, the missiles clawing upward, the tracers slashing past. You yank the stick. Your body jerks against the cot. Your chest heaves as if the harness is still digging into it. You wake with a start, sweat pouring, heart hammering so hard it hurts. The ceiling stares back, blank, unmoving, but your chest still feels like it's rattling apart. You swallow, the taste still metallic, still sour, as if the adrenaline never burned out at all. The hours crawl, midnight comes, then passes. 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3, the fan rattles, the generator hums, the trucks roll by, the artillery rumbles. You shift again, sheets twisting around your legs, sweat soaking through everything. You think about home, about beds that don't feel like ovens, about nights when silence was real, not just the absence of gunfire. But the thought makes your chest ache sharper, because home feels too far, too fragile, like a dream you're not sure exists anymore. You hear footsteps outside, quick, urgent. A voice calls in the distance, clipped, sharp. For a second your stomach lurches, your chest seizes, your mind braced for the alarm. The scramble. The order to climb back into the cockpit before your body has even left it. You wait, holding your breath, listening for the siren that never comes. The footsteps fade, the voice quiets. The night stretches on. You breathe again, slow, heavy, but the tightness in your chest doesn't ease. It never does. The hours grind forward. 4 a.m. comes, then 5. The horizon outside begins to glow faintly, the black sky softening into grey. Birds cry somewhere in the trees, their calls sharp and strange against the hum of engines. The camp stirs, voices low at first, then louder as men rise, stretch, lace boots, shuffle toward breakfast. You haven't slept. Not really. Maybe a few minutes here and there, shallow dips into darkness that felt more like drowning than rest. But the night has passed all the same, the mission of lying still beside the war completed, if not conquered. You sit up slowly, your body heavy, head pounding, mouth dry. The sheets are soaked, your undershirt clinging to your chest, your skin sticky with sweat and salt. You swing your legs over the side, boots hitting the floor, the sound dull against the wood. Around you, others do the same. Some look as tired as you feel. Others grin, crack jokes, pretend they've slept. You recognise the smile. It's the same one you wore when you stepped off the Phantom, the same one you'll force again today. Because the night never ends here, not really. The hours may shift, the sky may lighten, but the weight doesn't lift. You lie down beside the war. You wake up beside the war, and you carry it into the cockpit again. And when darkness comes back tonight, when the fan rattles overhead and the generator hums outside, you'll lie down again, staring at the ceiling, waiting for silence that never comes. The bass hums through the night, the same way it always does. Engines running, boots moving, voices carrying low across gravel paths. Somewhere far off, artillery thuds again, just enough to remind you that the war doesn't sleep even when you try to. The cots creak as men shift, some drifting off despite the noise, others staring at the canvas roof above them the way you do, counting hours that don't feel like hours. You close your eyes and try to sink deeper into the mattress, but the straps of the harness still seem to dig into your shoulders, even though they have been gone for hours. You can still feel the stick trembling in your hand, the radio crackling in your ears, the sour taste of adrenaline that refuses to fade from your tongue. The Phantom isn't here anymore, but it still is, stitched into every nerve, echoing through every heartbeat. It's like that every night. You can tell yourself the day is over, that you made it back, that the engines are quiet now. but the body doesn't believe it. The body stays braced for impact, jaw clenched, muscles taut, chest tight. Sleep isn't rest here. It's waiting. Waiting for the next siren, the next briefing, the next mission that will pull you out of bed and back into the cockpit again. So you lie there. You breathe slowly. Listen to the hum of the fan overhead, the soft buzz of insects outside, the distant rumble of trucks rolling somewhere beyond the wire. Your eyes grow heavy, not from calm, but from exhaustion too deep to fight. The ceiling blurs, the canvas fades, the edges of the world soften. The war is still there, waiting just beyond the walls, waiting in the sky, waiting in the jungle. But for now, in this moment, your body lets go just enough to drift. It's never real silence. It's never real peace. But it's enough to carry you through another night beside the war.